Me. How y'all doing, everybody? Oh, I'm not showing the Hangout. Let me make sure the Hangout is showing. Looks like I just have the wrong window picked. Oh, there we go. How y'all doing, y'all? This is Realizing the Shape number 32, Flat Earth Debate. Let me pull it up and see if we have any more chats that came through. So I have Agent Globehead here.
Sorry.
Had to come here the last show. Have the guy trying to be philosophical to the point of no return. I feel you. Fan of Rain, when does the stream start? We start now. Sean, remember to take some notes. Awesome. And yes, that's true, Age of Globehead. One thing I like to do on my channel, which I think people are starting to learn, is deal with evidence. Evidence. So people just go back and forth saying, I'm right, you're wrong, I'm right, you're wrong. It doesn't really get anywhere. But when we talk about evidence, then things work out pretty well. What'd you say, Sean?
Nothing.
I'm saying, wouldn't you say about evidence? Evidence.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, man.
I wouldn't. I was doing something on the side. I
Ha.
didn't hear you.
Oh, no problem, no
Sorry.
problem. I was just saying, wouldn't you say that evidence calms the conversation down when you focus on evidence instead of just I'm right, you're wrong, I'm right, you're wrong.
Oh
It
yeah.
seems like how most of these things go, but try to focus on
Absolutely.
evidence. So I left a message on uh, Stationary Montreal's channel. Uh, so we'll still share if he shows. But if not, I figure we can still talk about the topic. And, maybe another flat earther will want to come on and debate or something about the topic. But either way
Yeah.
it go, I figured we could still talk about why and how the Earth moves, how we know it moves, so on and so forth.
Yep. I haven't gotten that groove fixed on my broken record yet. So yeah, we can do it.
Well, one thing I've seen come to the fore recently, this very cool graphic. I know you've seen it. Like they will show, like let's say the what do you call it? The pole star here, and they will show like how let's say if you're at the equator, it's at this angle, so it'll have to be shorter, and at the let's say every single latitude is different, and all the lines will have the star at a different height, but then they
Yeah.
fold it so as a globe, and all the lines subtly are pointing towards the pole star as a globe. I love that
Yep.
graphic. It's so cool. Maybe I will just try to pull one of those up.
Pretty effective.
Yeah, very, very effective. I mean, that pretty much just, I mean, what can you say? I mean, what can you say
Did
after that?
did
So,
Tommy Grunwald do one of those? I knew he did something like that in SketchUp, but I'm not sure.
mm, guess I
There's
haven't
there's
heard all the names of it.
there's a really good one where it shows it, and it's like someone dropped a tablecloth over a ball, and it just sort of wraps around, and the lines all point to the exact same place.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yep.
So, yeah, man. Seems like, I guess that's one reason why I like to keep up with this stuff because you learn more about the globe. At least the more I hear about it. It's
Hey
like, man,
everyone, this is gonna
just amazing all the different facts that align to make this thing
Yep.
work. Facts and observations. I think the first time I saw this was on Professor Dave's channel when he was debunking the Globe Busters, but can't be sure. Anybody know Stationary Montreal? See if we can get him in. Hey, what's going on, Gentleys? Oh, whoa. Can somebody message him on that channel? Can somebody message the channel over there? If he's watching that, I'll
Yeah,
try
he
to.
was on. He was. I thought I saw him over there.
Let me see. I started getting this one set up. So I was there. I was looking to message him there, but then I started getting this one set up. So I stopped paying attention there. Let me message him over there too. At SE.
To be honest, I completely forgot that this was going to happen today. Like earlier this week when you posted the preview, the trailer of it,
Mm-hmm.
and I was like, I already did that. What? Like, oh yeah, I've got to do that. Holy, that's the update. That's the rematch or whatever.
That's right, because I think we didn't have enough time to actually talk
Yeah,
about whether it moves or not, but y'all talked about the spacesuit that time,
yeah,
which
yeah.
I think you clearly won, but we could leave it up to the people to decide. But I mean, it's pretty clear that you presented your evidence pretty well. I mean, he presented your evidence, thinking about it, so
Yeah, true.
yeah, he presented your side too, so I don't think he realized it though. I'm not able to. I notice when people are there, you can like do the at in their name and it highlights them, and I'm not able to highlight him. That's why I thought he wasn't here. You know what I
Here,
mean?
let me go. Let me try it. Where's
Like the name pops up when they're there, but I guess maybe they have to make a comment because I noticed. Um, I know that Big Blue was there, and I couldn't highlight his name, but he didn't make a comment yet. And after he made a comment, I can highlight his name, so it's kind of odd the way it works.
I can't. He isn't in the chat. He's just on the
On the panel?
yeah.
Oh, let me see if Jose or somebody on the panel could get him.
Mm,
Oh my gosh, I forgot to add the chat into the moment I add the live stream chat. Just saying live chat something or other thingy there. Hey, what's going on, Rez? I agree, Rez. That's one reason why I like scheduling these things out because yeah, he's had everybody's had a week to prepare. I know, I mean, sure I might have forgot, but I mean, you've been preparing for like forever since you've known, since you've accepted the facts. So, but yeah, I like them to have their time to prepare because I noticed that's one thing I learned about the fighters is with when I debated Riley, whatever that guy's name is, Sleeping Warrior Riley, you know what I'm talking about. And
yeah,
he kept wanting to debate stuff that I didn't know, and I was telling him, look, I said I didn't really look into the center of the earth. Give me a week, I'll come back and we can talk about it. No, you just wanna not wanna what did he say something like you just wanna avoid my points or whatever. Like I'm not trying to avoid your points. You give me a time to look at it. And sure enough,
yeah.
when I researched it, what he was saying the globe position wasn't really the globe position, but he was trying to get me to argue against that position as if it was the globe. He was trying to get me to defend what he said the globe was versus what they say. And then I find out when I looked at his conversation with Geo Street, that he already had that discussion. So
Mm.
it's just I mean it seems like it's just deception. I mean he seems like an intelligent guy, but
Yeah,
he
it reminds me of a famous clip when they were, the big tension between the United States and Russia, and they had some Russian guy in front of Congress or something, and the famous line is, "Answer the question, Mister. Don't
uh-huh,
wait for the translation. Answer the question."
yeah.
It's like they don't. Yeah, they don't. If you're prepared, they're fucked.
Hmm.
Pardon the language.
Oh, I understand. But yeah. And then of course he wouldn't talk to me again. When I came back a week later, as a matter of fact, it didn't even take a week. It took like a few days. And I came back like, hey, let's go ahead and get that thing set up. I don't want to. This is in Skype. Oh, I don't want to. He was texting me back. I don't want to. There's no point in chatting with somebody. You don't want to accept what I say. I mean, and
Yeah,
it's about facts and evidence. Why do I have to just accept what you say? So since I don't want to accept what he says, now he don't want to talk anymore.
yeah.
But I
And
believe
Anthony
he.
Riley, I don't think he's made it past page 3 of the Cavendish report.
Hmm.
I mean, he got as far as that one part that he needed for his argument, and yeah, screw the rest.
Hmm. And by the way, if anybody's interested in the discussion I'm talking about, I'll post that debate. It's still on my channel. It's right there. Anybody can see what happened. He was trying to get me to accept that there was this thing called Lilith because it says so on the cover of a book.
Of what?
Lilith. I was debating, so I came prepared with how solar eclipses work, and I was like, look, he was trying to say it's just a frequency. I'm like, no, look at the size, look at the location and things like that. And he was like, well, let me show you something. Matter of fact, let me just show that to you because it's so comical to see. I mean, it's
Lilith,
just hilarious.
Lilith is I believe, the feminist Eve. Lilith was like God's first Eve, and then I guess God didn't like her, her independence, her unwillingness to do what Adam told her to.
Okay.
So God killed her and then created Eve.
Mm. I
Something
remember
like that.
I remember some ancient writings that talked about a Lilith, but I ain't never look at it in detail though. I know you can't, you're unable to hear it when I present it, but I'll present it for the people in the stream, and then maybe you can click it. Let me find a timestamp,
All right.
and I'll play it from there, and you can hear, so you can get a laugh real fast. It's gonna be hilarious. All right. And if y'all would, guys, would y'all go ahead and make sure Montreal knows he has a debate? But I mean, as long as he's there, I'm pretty sure he'll pop over. Seems like he normally pops
Actually,
over.
I'm gonna mute my laptop and listen to it on my phone.
Awesome.
So I'll.
All right. So
Give me a moment. I'll find this section where he's proving, or he's trying to get me to accept, however you want to call it, the
and all it
existence
does
of
is makes
Lilith.
the predictions, which is the point I was making. I can't prove that it's flat because there's not enough time, people, money, tools. I mean, the most we've got really is like a P900 and a compass.
Okay.
What would the expectation be
Okay.
for somebody with no time, money, or skill or tools to do stuff, right?
How do you know that is not a globe hurling through space around us? Okay, here we go. I believe there's a Lilith. Why does reading this book prove there's a Lilith? The only Okay, so I'll present it and then I'll give you the timestamp so you could go right there on your phone, Shawn. And I'm still getting used to this thing. Where's my presentation thing? Maximize this. Present a window. And there we go. Boom. Boom. Perfect. The thing you've given me is a cover of a book. So like
Yeah, so look above. Can you see the big words in the middle that says a complete?
All right, so it's going to start at 2654. So I'll share it to people in the Hangout with the link. But like I said, I'll
So the
stream it.
bottom line reads.
Well, one moment. Let me pull it up. What is it called again? I'll put this in the Hangout for Shawn so he can see it. Where's my Hangout? There's the meet. So boom. There's a link right there, Shawn, with the timestamp. Uh-oh. Oh my gosh. Let me join again. There we go. Okay. I still misclick sometimes. So there's the link with the timestamp. You can start checking it out. Here is, I'll present again, a window. Boom. All right, guys, so check this out. I'll play this video and we can see what Riley calls proof.
Ephemeris, Raphael's Ephemeris, EPHEM.
Okay, I see
ERIS.
Ephemeris. Okay, I do see it here. I see the red one like you have there.
Yeah, 2019.
I don't see the 2019 one, but does it really matter which one or?
I don't know. That's just the one I've got on screen. It should be the same on all of them.
Okay,
it's just that I can see it on the screen on this one.
I have
Some
the
of the pictures are
2016
smaller.
one. It says, and let me pull up the image and increase it. Okay, so it says mean time observed throughout Is that the line you're talking about? Like, where is it in relation to that line?
Just click in the image. It says see the image.
Yeah, it's really big. So I'm needing to move my mouse around to read it. So like,
Yeah, so look above. Can you see the big words in the middle that says a complete
okay,
aspectarian?
I see that one.
The line that's above it.
hmm Okay, I'm gonna read it. Containing the longitudes of all the planets daily, and their latitudes and declinations for every other day, with the lunar and mutual aspects for every day act. Also, 10-day longitudes of Charon, 4 asteroids, and Black Moon Lilith. Okay?
Right. So what and this is continuous. This goes back in history, like as long as far many years. Whatever the Black Moon Lilith is, they know about it. It's up there, and they can document its movements. And my
Who knows
question,
about it?
well, Raphael, the
Okay.
astronomical company known as Raphael's Astronomical.
How did they learn about it?
That's part of my question, because ultimately what you're claiming is the curvature of the Earth that we're seeing, yet it gives off that red cast to
But
it.
one moment now. You said earlier that the person who makes the claim proves the claim. Now you're trying to get me to prove your claim.
Hey,
I never said there was a
no, what
Lilith.
I'm asking
You
is,
said there's a Lilith. I don't
how do
believe
you
in Lilith. You said the
how do
person
you,
who makes the claim has to prove the claim, but now you're asking me about your claim. I didn't mention Lilith. You mentioned Lilith, so you tell me. You know what I'm saying? Why are you trying to get me to prove your claim? You're going against your
no,
rule again. Earlier you said we're going to cover every point.
jump in the
You
gun.
you
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 jump in the
brought up the
gun.
point of the brightness that's coming at the edge of the darkness of the moon. I went to explain that covering every point, and you said no. Okay, now we don't have to cover every point anymore. We
All
started
right,
the chat.
stop,
You said
stop,
the person
stop.
who makes the claim has to prove the claim,
Right,
and now you're
you
asking me about your claim. That's
stop. You
okay.
jump in the gun. I'm not asking you to prove my claim.
Okay.
I'm asking you to accept the fact that there is something up there called the Black Moon, known as
I do
Lilith.
not accept the fact that there's anything up there as Lilith. It's up to you to prove to me that there's a Lilith. I don't
Well,
believe there's a Lilith. Just because this book says there's a Lilith, I don't know who Edwin Raphael is. Why should I believe there's a Lilith? Why does reading this book prove there's a Lilith? The only thing you've given me is a cover of a book that says there's a Lilith. Why should I then accept there's a Lilith?
because there is a celestial body up there called Lilith that interferes with our vision,
Okay, so
and
you're
this
saying this
document.
book, just because he wrote it on the cover of the book, that proves there's a Lilith?
They know. Well, if you're not going to accept that,
The
then
only
that's
thing you've
fine.
given me is the image cover of a book, and I read it, and it says it's a Lilith. So that proves
Yeah,
there's a
but what I'm
Lilith.
saying, the point I'm making is that how can we be certain that there is the shape of the Earth being cast on the moon when we know that there is another moon up there and it
No, I
interacts
don't know
with.
there's another moon. You're saying there's another moon, but you're not giving me any proof for it. I said we know because there's astronauts circling in the ISS. There's satellites up there seeing things. We have the calculations of everything so we can calculate it. That's what I said. I didn't
Oh, it's
mention anything about Lilith.
hysterical.
Now, if you're mentioning Lilith, you can tell me what Lilith is and knock yourself out. But I'll never Yeah, man, it's say wild. there is a Lilith just because I read it on the cover of this little image. As far as I know,
All
that could
right,
be a fiction somebody made up.
all
There
right.
we
So
go.
you're prepared to accept that there's astronauts up there and stuff, which I don't accept, but you're not
Definitely. I've
prepared
seen
to.
the
Yeah,
space
I
station
listened
myself.
to a little bit of it
I know
All
it's up
right,
there.
on
I've
my
seen it too,
phone.
and I know
Okay.
something's up there too, and I agree with you. There is
He's
something up
literally trying
there.
to get me to
So
accept
prove
Lilith
it.
because I
What
read it
my
on the
point
cover
is,
of that book.
my point is,
Yeah,
if
I
you're
just
accepting
Googled
one piece
it
of evidence with regards to
in
the
an
the
astrology chart.
astronauts
It's
that are
not
up
even
there,
astronomy, it's astrology.
Hmm.
Black Moon Lilith represents a person's primitive impulses and behavior in the rawest form. It reveals our repressed sexuality together with what makes us feel most vulnerable. It expresses the dark side of one's personality buried deep in the subconscious realms of our psyche.
Hmm.
It's a metaphysical thing inside of another metaphysical thing.
That's right.
It describes what your astrological chart can. It like more defines what you are as a person,
Instead of an
based
actual
on
object.
your psyche. It's not an actual object. No.
Somebody else in one of the comments onto the debate was saying it was some kind of similar to what you were saying. They said it's some kind of astrological node, like a theoretical
Yeah.
location relative to the Earth and the Moon or something. But according to him, it's actually up there, even though his only evidence is that the cover of the book says so. But that's the
Yeah.
logic that we're dealing with, man. That's I guess the lack of logic we're dealing with, the lack of reason. Red says he was just trying to troll, but seemed like he believed it to me. I'm starting to take them at their word, man. I'm starting to realize this stupidity of humanity. There's really no bounds.
I mean, if there was a black moon up there,
Oh, look
if
at I see
if the
Montreal's
moon,
here. Look, let me
if
give
the
him the
moon,
link.
the moon counter rotated 25 degrees every so often, if there were two suns, someone would have noticed this stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, and some astronomer just bought a telescope, sees this, he's gonna run into a whole lot of money through the science community.
That's right. Nobel Prize or something, right?
No one's done it.
Yeah. So it's crazy, man. But apparently, this Raphael guy who's somewhere, I don't know who he is. Apparently, you know, in the comments later, he's like, somebody asked him, you still believe in that Lilith? How do you know it's there? He's like, Raphael, every single year, Raphael's a book. I'm like, dude. But cool. SC Montreal is here.
Okay.
It was nice to have a little chat with you before we started.
Yeah, good.
What's going on, SC Montreal? Stationary Earth Montreal. How you doing?
Very good, sir. How are you?
Doing good. Glad you made it. So we have this debate planned. Make sure everybody has some time to get whatever evidence they needed. As everybody at home can see, the topic is realizing shape number 32, flat Earth debate. Shawn Hawkins versus Stationary Earth Montreal. Is the Earth mobile or stationary? Is the Earth mobile or stationary? So, as you know, I'm about evidence. So what I'm thinking is, and y'all can let me know if everybody agrees, I want to base it on evidence. So I'm thinking, if I remember right, Shawn Hawkins presented his side about the suits first. So I'm thinking Stationary Earth to present his side first this time. So Stationary Earth, you can let me know how much time you think you need to present your side. You can present your evidence that the Earth is stationary, or present your evidence that it's not moving, however you want to go. Then Shawn Hawkins will have the same exact time. Perhaps I'll ask some questions to support your side, and then you can hash it out back and forth. So I'm thinking we can take no more than 2 hours, no more, and that should be enough time to hash everything out. I know time flies doing this thing. I spent like 6 hours with, you know, to fight the deception at time, and I think 4 hours. Let's try to keep it like 2 hours, 2.5, and just base it on evidence. That sound good to both of y'all?
Sounds good to me, Daryl. But before we continue, I just want to say one thing.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have much time to prepare for the debate. I just came on to say hi because I had a very busy week.
Okay.
I know Shawn is laughing. He probably thinks I'm trying to avoid it, but I'm not.
No,
I'm here. I'm
I don't think
unprepared.
you're laughing. I honestly, until he posted the trailer for this thing a couple days ago, I forgot it was going on. So yeah, that's why I'm laughing.
Okay. Well,
I hear you.
do y'all still feel
I'm laughing at
confident
you, I'm
now?
laughing at myself.
Do y'all want to move it back?
As a matter of fact, Daryl. Sorry, Shawn.
Okay.
Sorry, Daryl. As a matter of fact, Shawn, I was under the impression until just I saw the link that we were going to do the spacesuit thing.
Oh.
Because I was talking with Daryl and we forgot what the topic was, and he suggested that it was the spacesuit because we both didn't remember. But
Yeah.
Listen, I'm here. We can talk and we can take on the debate on another time where we can be both prepared.
That sounds good.
Okay, sounds good.
But I'm here. I'm not running.
Okay. And to be clear, by the way, I reminded you that it was the emotion because we was talking about the suit, and then we started talking about the emotion or not, and then we talked about coming back here. But I understand it's easy to forget.
Yeah.
But, yeah, if y'all want, I mean, how much time do y'all think y'all need to prepare? Perhaps y'all could just go prepare and come back in like an hour, and I could just talk about something else. I mean, if y'all have enough time.
I'm not sure an hour is enough, Daryl. I'd like to be very prepared because I know Shawn knows his stuff.
Well, let me ask you this. I mean, is your position that the Earth is stationary? So, I mean, clearly you must have some basis for that. So, I mean, can you name at least one thing that you're certain about? That's your basis for the reason why the Earth is stationary?
Sure, just off the top of my head, the Coriolis effect.
Okay. So what is your findings that the Coriolis effect proves that the Earth is stationary?
Well, the Coriolis effect, in order for the Coriolis effect to work, we need two frames of references, correct?
I don't know. I'm asking you to let us know.
Well, okay, yeah. For the Coriolis effect to work, we need two references.
Okay.
With a person stationary on the Earth
Okay.
And let's say let's take a merry-go-round for example, right?
Okay.
You're on one reference point. The merry-go-round is turning. Once you're on one side, you have another person on the other side.
Hmm.
So when you throw a ball, it appears that it's curving. That's the Coriolis effect.
Okay.
It's very simple to understand. So we would observe this on Earth as well. For example, a helicopter hovering in the Earth should witness the Earth turn underneath it. Just off the top of my head,
Okay.
that's one thing.
So to make sure I'm understanding properly, you're saying that the absence of a Coriolis effect proves that the Earth doesn't move.
No, well, yeah, sort of.
I mean, just let me know clearly.
If there's a let me state clearly what I'm saying,
Okay.
so you can understand. If there's a Coriolis effect, we would observe the Earth moving. We don't observe the Earth moving, so there you go.
Do you? And by the way, let me go ahead and welcome Loken and Big Blue. Always welcome on the channel. Welcome you guys. And and do you understand his point, Shawn? What he's saying?
Yeah, I understand it.
Because I'm not clear I'm understanding what he's saying. Go ahead and break down your understanding of what he said, and then you can give your take on it.
Jeez. Yeah, I understand it. I'm not quite following it, so I can't really comment on it.
I think he had a system issue. Hopefully he comes right back. Looks like he's dropped just now.
I mean, one thing you have to look at is we can make observations of the stars, and depending on how things move and how we observe them, determines on what shape they take. For instance, if I look at if you draw a circle on the ground, or you put a hula hoop on the ground, and I stand right in the center of the hula hoop, I'm going to see a circle looking down.
Okay.
But if I walk 20 feet away, I'm going to see an oval.
Okay.
Now that's because you've made the circle. You've drawn a concrete, or you've created an actual thing, a circle on the ground that I as an observer have to look at. Now, if let's say you put a white dot on the ground and I spin my head so that a circle is created in my vision of the trail of that white dot, that thing is going to make a circle no matter where you are looking at it. And that's what we are. We are the spinning thing looking at the white dot. We are turning, and the white dot is Polaris, or the stars.
Okay.
Now, if they turned and we were stationary, it would be like the hula hoop. But we turn and they're stationary, so the circle is created by the optical effect of us moving.
Okay. So why don't we do it this way? So, Stationary Earth Montreal, welcome back. You presented the evidence of, if I'm understanding correctly, that if the Earth really moved, there would actually be a Coriolis effect. But, like for instance, a helicopter hovers up into the air, and the Earth doesn't move under it, so that proves that there's not a Coriolis effect, so the Earth is not moving. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And Shawn, I don't know if you was able to hear it. He said that his proof is that when we look at like the way the stars move. So let's say we're looking at a hula hoop that we put on the ground. Let's say we stand directly in the center of a hula hoop. We look down, it's a perfect circle. But if I leave that same hula hoop on the ground, and let's say I walk 30 feet away and I look at it, I'm looking at it at an angle. From my perspective, it looks like an oval. But no matter where we are on the Earth, we look up at the trail of the stars, and it still makes the circle. It doesn't make an oval, like we're moving, on a plane, looking up at a circulating sky. So would you say that proves both of your positions, or clarifies both of what your positions are?
I'm a little not sure about what his statement is.
He's okay. So he's about to clarify for you and show you something.
Okay, I did a. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. I did an experiment where I took, it's called a yarn winder. It spun, and I could use it to rotate things. Just use it as a tool. And I took a light bar, and I attached the light bar to it, and I spun the lights. The rest of it just some ugly guy talking. And let me see. There we go. All right, what you're seeing here is the first shot. This is dead center with the lights on the lights stable, right? Okay, so I just narrate it so you guys can hear in the hangout. The lights were stable. I put the lights on the ground, and I leaned the light bar up against a wall, and I rotated the camera. I attached the camera to the yarn winder first, and I rotated the camera. And what we got was this shot straight on, that shot in an angle, or a change in position, keeping the light bar centered. And then I got this one. And that's perfect circle too. Or I'm sorry, this is where the that's where the, let's see, this one, and there's another one. And that one were taken from I'm sorry. Let me start again. The first shots were with the light bar stationary and the camera moving.
So right now, so this is basically a light that's made of like a circle of lights like LEDs, or it's
No,
one light.
it's an LED strip.
Oh, I gotcha. Okay, and the camera is actually
We've got
spinning.
Right.
Okay.
Camera's spinning in here. Now,
Okay.
on this, we've got the light bar spinning.
Okay. The LED bar
camera-
itself is spinning around.
Right.
Camera
and then
stationary.
I centered on the center of the light bar as best I could. So then when I moved off center, right, moved from my position, stuff changed. See how I further and further off center I get? See, this is like me at the equator here.
Mhm.
This is at the North Pole looking up. But then you go further and further out, and you get different angles. And that's with the lights moving and the camera stationary. But if you make, and I really need to redo this, but I can't. I sold that yarn winder, and I don't have any kind of a lazy Susan to do this thing again. But I will redo the experiment. But and you can very easily do this. Look up at the sky at night, and you see the stars. It's better to do it, in a dark place, and then spin and look at the stars. You will see trails of circles. They won't be oval. And any direction you look at, it's going to be circular. That's the nature of our observation. If something makes a circle physically, it's established, and our perspective dictates its shape. If that shape is created by an optical effect of us moving, wherever we look is creating that circle. And that's the way it is on the Earth. The Earth rotates in a specific manner on its rotational poles. So everything in the sky will be circular. If it was the other way around, everything would be a different shape in the sky, depending on where you were on the Earth.
Do you understand his point, stationary in Montreal? Still here?
Sorry about that. I was on mute. Yes, I do.
Okay. So why don't we do this? Why don't we talk about some evidence? So, stationary in Montreal. I'll let you know that what you described does not match what my understanding is of what would happen, or what, in other words, uh, it's not my understanding that an airplane should, or a helicopter should have the Earth move underneath it. So, what is your basis for
They're all
saying?
one question. Sorry.
Okay.
Am I debating you and Shawn or just Shawn?
Well, so this is what's going on here. So you all both of you all said that you weren't really prepared, and so we just going on the fly. And even when we were
Ah,
talking about,
okay.
even when we were talking about being planned, what I said was I'll probably follow up with some questions. You remember that?
Okay, fair enough.
Right. So what I'm doing is both because I was already going to do that anyway, and secondly because I noticed that you two are talking about two totally different points. So because I understand you were both of y'all are not prepared, so what I'm going to do now, maybe I should have explained it first more clearly. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask you for evidence for your point, which I started with anyway. I said it's going to be based on evidence. You remember that?
Mm-hmm.
So you made a claim, but you didn't present any evidence to say this is why the earth should be that way. So I'm asking for the evidence that I said is always necessary on my channel, and I'm going to do the same thing for Shawn. I'm going to ask for some evidence. So I already also said that you were first, so I'm going to start with you first. So you presented your point of the Coriolis effect. He presented his point of the way the star trails moves. So now I'm going to come back to you and ask for evidence. I'm going to do the same thing for Shawn and ask for evidence. So this illustrates something that I commonly see with flat earthers. I'm trying to get information, and you think I'm debating. I'm simply asking a question. So the first thing I started with was saying was what you said doesn't match my understanding. So then I want to ask, what evidence do you have, or what basis do you have to say that the Earth should be moving underneath the helicopter when it lifts off? So what is your basis for saying that?
Sure, fair enough. But before I answer that question, I would like to ask you, what is your understanding?
So now this is what I noticed now. A moment ago you were like, "Who am I debating? You or Sean?" so now I'm asking you a
Yeah, but
question.
since you came in,
'Cause I'm asking you a
no, but
question.
since you came in,
I'm not
Daryl,
coming in.
you're in now.
That's what I just explained to you. I'm not coming into the. All I'm doing is what I told y'all I was going to do from the start. I said you were first. You will present your position. Sean will present his position. I said I may ask some follow-up questions. I plan to do more of that because if you remember, I started off by saying you present your position and I'll give you let me know how much time you need, and then Sean will present his position and then let me know how much time you need. So my idea when we came into this was each of y'all would take like 15, 20, 30 minutes every time you need, and I just be quiet and you present your point. But y'all are not prepared. So I'm coming in a bit sooner, not to do anything different, but to do exactly what I said, that I would probably ask some follow-up questions. Which is what I've been doing the whole time. Even when you was talking, I asked some follow-up questions to understand. Then I asked Sean some follow-up questions. I'm not doing anything different than what I've been doing for both of y'all. So as I just said, what I'm doing now, I'm not trying to debate you. I'm simply pointing out the fact that what you said doesn't match my experience or what I understand. I'm sure it doesn't match other people's understanding as well because people have said already in the chat he's not basing it on evidence. Just scroll up and you can see the live chat. So all I'm doing is asking you, what are you basing that on? What is your evidence, and so on and so forth. So then to ask me what my position is like, you're trying to ask me to join the debate when you had a problem with that a moment ago. So, but I don't want to join the debate. All I want to do is get your basis, your evidence, your whatever, and I'm going to do the same thing for Sean. So so why? What is your basis for saying that if a helicopter lifts off, the Earth should move under it? So let's go with that.
Okay, fair enough. What's my basis? It's very simple. If something is in the air on a separate reference frame and something below it is spinning on another reference frame, it's very simple. You should see the ground moving underneath the helicopter.
Okay.
That's my evidence.
Okay.
Look at any helicopter hovering.
Okay. You know how helicopters work, right? Do you know how hard a helicopter is to fly, to maintain a steady flight and hover? That's a hard thing. Helicopters don't have autopilot like airplanes do. Airplanes rely on a completely, well, not completely different flight model. But a helicopter is a really, really, really hard thing to fly. And a helicopter staying in one place hovering is a testament to the pilot rather than the aerodynamics of the craft.
Well, to be fair, Sean, to be fair, that's actually not addressing his point. His point is that when the helicopter lifts off the ground, it's in a separate frame of reference from the Earth. So since the Earth is moving, it should move under the helicopter. Would you say that's accurate? Summary, Montreal.
Yes, Daryl, thank you.
So what is your response directed to that? Why doesn't the Earth move underneath the helicopter when it lifts off?
It does, but it's so gradual that it just keeps up with it. We also have relative motion. We have. I'm lost for terms right now. It's like if you got a ball in a car and you toss the ball up and the car's moving, the ball's not going to go to the back of the car. It's going to come back down to where it was. They were on the Earth. They lifted up. They were moving linearly. Or they were moving in a rotational form. You know what the hell I'm saying.
So it sounds like what Sean is saying, because he used the example of a ball when you're in a car.
Moving, yeah, it's moving with the Earth. When it lifts up, the Earth is still moving, and it's still moving. So it's maintaining its linear velocity. And by the time that the helicopter could possibly slow down and let the Earth go at its 1,000 miles an hour under it, the pilot's making that helicopter go that way. He's keeping it aligned with his position. It's the physical control of the helicopter by the pilot. There's nothing you can press on the cockpit that says hover. There's no hover button.
All right. So what's your response to the first point? Like, do you know what he's talking? Like, have you ever was a kid in the car, Montreal, and you throw a ball up and you just catch the ball?
Mm-hmm.
So why
you're in an enclosed?
Go ahead.
You're in an enclosed system. Obviously, you're moving with the car. That I get.
Mm-hmm. Now, to be fair, like I was born in New Orleans, and I was on like the floats, like the floats, and it was open, just like how the Earth is open, and I threw things to the crowd that still move laterally. I threw things back and forth to people on the float, and even though the float was moving, the object didn't suddenly fly away from us. Like, in other words, if I'm standing on one side of the float and the person on the other side of the float was over there, and it was like, hey, Daryl, throw me a bag of that. When I picked it up and threw it to him, it didn't suddenly fly off the back of the float just because it was open. So how do you explain that if the top makes a closed system or something like that?
Let me ask you, would the same effect happen if you're in a convertible?
Well, essentially, that's what that was. It was even more than a convertible. It was like completely open. But my understanding is, yes, the same effect happens whether you're in a convertible, in your closed car. And my experience says that because I was on a float. And you've seen a parade before, right, where there's the floats? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, but it also depends on the speed you're going, right, Daryl? The floats are going very slowly, I imagine.
So you're saying that...
Try doing that.
Okay, so what do you have to say? So it sounds like he's saying that... so in other words, like how do you correlate that? Like, in other words, a helicopter is on the Earth. So basically, and correct me if this is what you're saying, Sean. So Sean is saying, just like how we're in a car, you could throw up the ball and it comes right back down. And then you said that with the same thing with the helicopter, the Earth is moving and the helicopter is moving. So in that instance, how are you saying that because the float is moving? Like, what are you saying the speed has to do with? What difference is that? Because I don't see the difference.
Are you talking to me?
Yes.
Okay. First of all, these are two separate things, right? If you're in a car or a float going relatively slowly, sure, you can throw things around and it won't affect. But if you're on a float going 1,000 miles an hour, I think it would be a little different. No?
According to what I heard Shawn say, no, because he said that the Earth is moving 1,000 miles an hour. He specifically said that, and he said the helicopter is moving too. So what he's saying is like right now, like so let's say you're standing on the equator, and the equator is moving laterally 1,000 miles an hour. The helicopter is moving 1,000 miles an hour too. So they're moving the same
How is
speed.
that? That's impossible. A helicopter cannot go 1,000 miles an hour.
Right. So in other words, it sounds like you're saying that from your perspective, the Earth is stationary, and if the Earth was moving, it would be moving at the equator 1,000 miles an hour to the side when it spins. Is that correct?
That's according to their theory. Yeah, the
Okay.
spinning ball theory, of
Okay.
course.
So that means according to that theory,
It just doesn't make sense.
right? So I understand what you're saying, but I'm just establishing the point of the theory, and we can call it a theory. So from that theory, that means that the helicopter that's sitting at the equator is moving 1,000 miles an hour to the side with the Earth. Is that correct?
Yes, but let me be clear. The Coriolis effect is real. The Coriolis effect itself is real.
Okay, so
It
when
just
you say
doesn't apply to the Earth.
so maybe that's what we're misunderstanding. When you say the Coriolis effect, please explain what that is exactly. Maybe we just because what I understand the Coriolis effect to mean is it seems to be different from what you're saying. So when you say Coriolis effect, please describe exactly what that is.
Sure, there's only one Coriolis effect. We go back to the merry-go-round. I'm on one side of the merry-go-round, you're on the other, we're completely facing each other.
Mm-hmm.
The merry-go-round is turning. I throw a ball to you. That ball appears to be curving, but it's going in a straight line. That's very simple. That's the Coriolis effect.
Okay, so I can certainly understand what you mean.
But that does not happen on Earth.
Okay, so do you have anything to say to that, Shawn?
No, I'm actually looking something up. I'm listening though.
Okay.
I'm sort of.
Okay, no problem. Well, let's go to Shawn's point. So Shawn, you mentioned the circular nature of the stars. So let me share this image really
Can I ask
fast.
you a question, Daryl?
Okay.
Can I ask you? Sorry to interrupt.
Okay.
Does he yield on this point? Shawn, do you yield on this point? Or are you looking further into it?
I'm looking further into it. I mean, the Coriolis has been established. I mean, the military uses it in artillery. I mean, my attitude with military manuals, field manuals, TM training manuals is if they lie, good people die. So
I hear you, Shawn.
that's one of my definitive proofs of anything that is real. I mean, if a military manual says that I have to take the spin of the Earth into account or the curvature of the Earth into account, I'm going to do it because it's proven that, or it's established that when people don't do it, good people die.
Shawn, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Is there any, do you have any citation, any manual? Because I haven't seen that written on any military manual. I heard people talk about it.
Right.
But I also heard snipers say that it's full of crap.
40-6 or whatever, and that FM 40-6 or what, isn't that the one or something like that? It's the Army sniper manual. It only goes up to 1,000 yards. So a standard Army sniper doesn't have to worry about anything past 1,000 yards. They're going to kill someone, they're going to call in a mortar team. But if you want to take someone out surgically at more than 1,000 yards, you call in a specialized sniper, probably a SEAL. And they have the know-how and they train for that kind of stuff. They're the best of the best. And
so are you saying
their training most certainly says, yeah, the spin of the Earth takes into effect after 1,000 miles an hour. Or 1,000.
Shawn, no disrespect, but that sounds pretty selective. It either works or it doesn't.
Well, it takes time for a bullet to go 1,000 yards. And the amount of time that it takes that bullet to go 1,000 yards, the Earth doesn't move enough under the bullet to make that shot inaccurate enough to not be worth it. Now, anything after 1,000 yards, the Earth will move enough to increase your margin of error.
With all due respect, Sean, I can prove that wrong right now.
Really?
Okay, please
Okay,
do so.
good.
That's part of your position.
Hmm. Yeah, because back on the merry-go-round, when you throw the ball to me or I throw it to you, how fast is that ball traveling?
I don't
A few miles an hour, yet we see it clearly, the Coriolis
know.
effect.
Okay.
So that shoots that down.
No, not really.
Come on, Sean.
So say that one more time,
How
Seriously.
do
Montreal.
how
I'm
do
sorry. I was looking at the chat. Say that one more time, please.
What I'm saying is the fact that they say that the bullet only encounters the Coriolis effect after 1,000 feet or yards or whatever makes no sense, because the Coriolis effect can clearly be visible on the example I gave on a merry-go-round when I'm facing you face to face and I throw you the ball as the merry-go-round is turning.
Well, okay. To be
You
fair,
clearly see
is
the
that
to be
Coriolis
fair,
effect.
to be fair,
I
to
have a
be fair,
question.
Sean didn't say that though. Sean said that at a shorter distance, the Earth doesn't move enough for it to matter to the shot. He didn't say it is
Right.
not affected at all.
How big
So,
And
is
I
the
just did prove that. I just disproved that.
how big is the merry-go-round?
well, let me make sure we get this one point though. You disproved what, Montreal?
I disproved that you cannot be selective with the Coriolis effect. It takes into effect immediately as soon as the ball leaves the frame of reference that is turning.
What I'm saying is, I heard Sean say
Right
that.
away.
I just heard him say that over short distances, it doesn't affect it enough to matter to the shot. They only take it into account over certain distances. Correct me if I'm wrong, Sean.
No, you're absolutely right. How big is your merry-go-round, by the way, Essie? Is it 4,000
A
miles
standard
wide?
merry-go-round? A standard merry-go-round?
So it's not 4,000 miles wide? No.
No, Sean, it's not.
Okay. Okay.
Well, to be fair to Montreal's point, when you look at the merry-go-round, that does demonstrate what the Coriolis effect is. Like if you're on one side of the merry-go-round and it's spinning, and you throw the ball to the other side, by the time the ball gets to the other side, that person has moved out of the way. And that's
Right.
essentially what
And
happens with the Coriolis effect. So that it is an accurate representation of the general concept.
right, but the scale, if see, when you scale an experiment down, you have to scale the entire experiment down, the entire model, for the better use of word. If that merry-go-round represents a shot taken by a sniper, that shot would be about 4,000 miles, because you're also standing on either side of that spinning merry-go-round, right? How wide is the Earth? So that sniper that's represented by the ball being thrown back and forth, that sniper would have to be taking a shot that's the width of the Earth.
You
So
understand his point, Montreal?
not a really good.
I understand this point, but it doesn't make sense. You either have the Coriolis or you don't.
No,
Okay.
you always have the
Okay.
Coriolis effect. It just does not affect a sniper's shot at a shorter distance.
Okay, give me a moment.
Okay,
Let me see if
forget
I
the
could.
sniper.
One moment. Let's make sure we do one point at a time. Let me make sure I explain what he's saying. This is what he's saying, Montreal. So you use the merry-go-round, and the person is throwing the ball from one side of the merry-go-round to the other, right?
Right.
That'd be equivalent on the Earth of somebody um, on the equator in South America throwing the ball to the other side of the Earth and to southern Asia. That'd be the equivalent to that. What he's saying
Actually,
is,
it'd be North Pole and South Pole.
said
That would be that equivalence, because it's
like
spinning that way.
across the center of the Earth. What he's
So
saying
yeah,
is like
no,
a
you're right.
sniper's
You're right.
bullet.
Never mind.
Mhm.
Never mind. You're right.
So let me. I'll pull up an illustrator to make it easier. One moment here.
Yeah.
So let me pull up a paint. And let me share my paint. A window. And
But
I'll
I mean,
show both of these.
the fact kind of remains that if it exists at all, it can't exist on a flat Earth.
Right. So to Montreal's point,
The
he's
Earth has to move for it to exist.
oops.
You're just making my point.
Right.
Okay.
And
So
we know it exists because our long range artillery and long range snipers use it.
and are y'all able to see this paint in the in a hangout?
Yep.
I can see it.
So this is basically what both of y'all are saying to make sure we're on the same page. So the left is the merry-go-round. So basically, Montreal is saying somebody's here and somebody's there. The merry-go-round is spinning, and you by the time if you throw a ball to the other side, Montreal, by the time the ball gets there, this person has moved over to here, right?
Hmm.
That's the Coriolis effect.
And it appears that the ball is curving, but it's
Curving.
going in a straight line.
Exactly. To
Yes.
this person here, it looks like the ball is curving that way because he's moving, correct?
Correct.
So what Shawn is saying to his point, he's saying the equivalent would be a person is here and a person is here. Like this circle here would be like the equator, the edge of the merry-go-round. So your example would
Hmm.
be throwing the ball way to the other side of the earth. This is the center, which is like the center of the merry-go-round. So this is the center that the equator is spinning around. So just like how the center
Hmm.
that the equator is spinning around on the earth, this is the equivalent of on the merry-go-round. So in other words, the equivalent of the helicopter moving would be the helicopter moving from here to here, or the helicopter moving from there to there, or the bullet moving from there to there. So the effect would be very small on the in the actual real world scale. So what I'm understanding is both of you are right. If you take a projectile on the Earth and you shoot it to way to the I gotta switch to the pencil, and you shoot it to way to the other side of the planet. By the time it got to the other side of the planet, the Earth would have moved a significant amount, depending on how fast it's going. And just like how if you throw a ball from here to here, by the time the ball got there on this small merry-go-round, the merry-go-round would have moved because it's moving so much faster if you like a regular merry-go-round. So
Even
this,
in
It's not by the time it got there. It's not by the time it got there, Daryl. As soon as it leaves the reference point,
no, what
you
I'm
see the apparent curve.
so to make
even
sure
in
There's no
you are
time here. There's no.
yes,
even in
I
short,
agree. So in other words, what we're saying is the great distances that, in other words, if the equivalent would be if the person is standing like this, is what we're talking about. So yes, if they were standing right here in front of each other, do you think the person would still be able to catch the ball in Montreal?
That close? Probably, yeah. You have
Exactly.
enough time.
Exactly. So
even
so
in
so so what you're saying is correct, I think, Montreal. When you look at the other side of the planet, with Montreal, what Sean is correct as well. He's talking about the people standing next to each other. See what I'm saying? So as far as Coriolis effect, I think you're both right. If you're standing next to each other
No,
on the
no, no, no.
merry-go-round,
I disagree. I respectfully disagree. You can't have both.
well,
even
well,
in
well, but
space,
before we move on, let me just make sure we both understand each other's points. So you understand, Sean, that he's saying on the other side of the merry-go-round how is equivalent to the other side of the earth. Do you accept that that's an equivalent reference?
me,
Yeah.
yeah. If you're on opposite sides of the merry-go-round, you are on opposite sides of the globe in comparison. Yeah.
Okay. And Montreal, do you accept that if you're standing next to each other on the merry-go-round like this, is equivalent to shooting a bullet only, 50 yards, or flying up with a helicopter and not moving so far like here? Do you agree that that's
No,
equivalent?
no, no. I disagree with that, and I'll tell you why.
Okay.
Remove the helicopter, so you have no excuses of pitch, yaw, and him moving it. Just put a balloon there. We'll think of it that way.
Okay.
Just put a balloon.
Okay.
There's no wind. It's just currently floating.
Okay.
It'll move with the earth.
Well, let's hear him
It'll,
out.
it'll
To be
move with the
fair,
earth.
Okay, okay.
so
Now,
well, no,
I
Sean.
was
Let's
trying
hear
So
him
it'll
out.
move
No,
with
no,
the
no,
to
no.
earth, you
Wait, wait,
said,
wait,
what
right?
I
wait, wait,
say.
wait, 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 wait. Let's hear him out. Let's hear him out. So let's let everybody get a chance. So Montreal, you said you were talking about a balloon.
I'm trying to address the last point,
It's Sean's
and no
turn
one
to
will let
talk, I
me
believe.
speak.
Okay. Okay.
Even in short range ballistics, if you shoot any distance, even under 1,000 yards, right, like 900 yards, you shoot with no wind, no weird atmospherics to get involved. If you shoot north and south, your shot will be deflected to the east, no matter if you're shooting north or south. This is a proven ballistic fact. So,
Do you understand his point, Montreal?
I understand this point, but it's not so. I'll give you another example, if I may.
Well, let's stop. Let's finish this point first, because we want to come back to this point. So, Sean, what is your evidence that if you shoot north, because he's saying it's not so. So you can say you're right, and you can say he's right, and that doesn't really mean anything. So, what's your evidence, Sean, that if you shoot north, it'll still deflect to the east, and if you shoot south, it'll still deflect to the east? And Montreal, same thing. What's your evidence that it only goes one way? Or it doesn't go the same way, or whatever your position is. Like, where are you saying it goes? If you shoot north, where does it go, Montreal?
Ballistic charts.
Okay, so would you pull up a ballistic chart for us, Shawn
Actually,
Hawkins,
I'm
and what is
trying
your,
to find a.
okay, and what is your proof or your evidence, Montreal, that it doesn't go east, whether you shoot north or south, and what direction does it go if you shoot south, or should it go?
My proof is when I see a balloon in the air, stationary, the Earth doesn't rotate under it. I don't need to know anything else. I don't need to know bullets. I don't need to know ballistics. I don't need to know anything else except what I see.
Okay, so his evidence is, if you're looking at a balloon, it floats up, and we can see that balloon the Earth doesn't just fly underneath it. Is that your point?
That's correct.
Okay, so and Sean is going to look up his evidence that that there is a movement to the east, even in short distances, or even whether north or south. Oh my gosh, thing crashed again. I think I clicked the wrong button again. Coming right back in. And while they're looking up their evidence,
Arrow dropped again.
yep, yeah, it's just, I think I dragged something into the window.
I've got a. Actually, I'll post the link in the side chat so you guys will have it.
Go ahead and present. You can go ahead and present it.
Hold on.
And what do you mean, Lottie? I'm not. Let me scroll through.
Oh, by the way, Daryl, something very interesting came up.
Okay.
All right. Here's the.
What is it?
There's the
Daryl?
link.
What is it? What is the interesting thing?
Okay, the link's in the side chat. And
Can you hear me, Montreal?
let's see.
Oh, y'all. Oh, I keep forgetting when I first come back in, I have to unmute myself. My bad.
Oh,
I was saying, yeah, I made a mistake and dragged something into the chat, and it dropped me off again. But I got to remember when I come back in to unmute myself. I was talking, but y'all couldn't hear me.
so this is a product specialist from Gunworks, and he is demonstrating how Coriolis affects. Do you think I could play it? I mean, it's
certainly. I don't know if they can hear it, but I won't be able to hear it either. What I'll do is I'll play it, and then I'll be able to hear it. And what I'll do, and Montreal, what were you saying was the interesting thing that came up?
You're going to like this. Well, Sean is not his favorite person, but the QE is doing a Sea Sparrow missile thing on this. I guess it is today on Ball Busters, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
Okay.
Remember that conversation we were having on the Sea Sparrow? Yeah.
Sounds good. I'm not sure. I guess that's a rocket or something.
No, that's that missile we were saying that was claiming that it has over-horizon capabilities with the radar, the beam radar, pencil beam radar.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
I don't know if you remember that conversation we were having.
You're talking about when we was talking with Schrodinger's cat. I got you.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
I got you. I'm with you now.
Here's the video.
And I have it sharing right now. If you look at the presentation, I have it sharing right there.
All right.
So, and everybody in the at home can see it now. Okay. So what part do you want me to go to?
Just
going to go over one of the common issues, guys.
He's basically going over.
Hi, I'm Jeremy
well, can I just go ahead and play it and let him say it?
Certainly. And just a comment. Yeah. I'll let everybody hear it. And just load it up yourself, Montreal. You can hear it yourself.
Drop chart or a ballistic compensator like we use on.
I can see it.
We field hundreds of calls a month where guys cannot re-verify their data once they've shot it one day and go out and try to return the same data, let's say a week later. And one of the common issues.
say a week
issues
later.
is that
And
we
one of
see
the
is
common
the Coriolis
issues
effect.
is
And
that we
what
see
guys are
is the
not
Coriolis
doing is
effect.
taking.
And what
Now,
guys
the
are
effect
not
is the
doing is
effect
taking into account
that
the effect that this
when
can
the
have
bullet
on
leaves
your
the
shooting
barrel of the gun,
at
it
longer
is
range.
actually leaving
Now,
the
real
surface
quick,
of the
let's
earth.
kind of
So
just
as the bullet
explain the
leaves
Coriolis
the
effect
barrel
in
of the
layman's
gun,
terms.
the
Coriolis
earth is
effect
still
is the
rotating,
effect
and the
that
bullet is not
when the
rotating
bullet leaves the barrel
And
of the gun, it is
with the earth.
actually leaving the surface of the earth. So as the bullet leaves the barrel of the gun, the earth is still rotating, and the bullet is not rotating with the earth. So the earth will actually rotate out from underneath of the bullet while it is in flight. So as the earth rotates, it actually rotates from the west to the east. So what that's going to do to our targets is if you're shooting west, your target's going to rotate up and towards us, which is going to cause the bullets to hit lower.
Yeah, this is more, he's talking about west to east. So when you shoot west to east, it affects your bullet drop. When you shoot north to south, it affects the drift.
okay.
If you're facing east, the target's going to be dropping and slightly moving away, which is going to cause the hits to be higher. Now, why this is important is out to 1,000 yards, you can have almost a full minute of correction due to Coriolis effect, depending on which direction you sighted in your zero. Now, to show you guys just how much effect there's going to be, we're going to put on a little shooting demonstration here. I've got targets east or west and east of us, exactly 1,000 yards in each direction. So what we're going to do to prove this Coriolis effect on our rifle here is we're going to shoot it out to 1,000 to the west, and we're going to shoot it to 1,000 to the east, and we're going to measure the difference in those group centers. And hopefully it's going to show you guys that this kind of error can lead to bigger errors in your drop data.
Now, it's important to note, excuse me, it's important to note that he isn't changing anything with the gun.
Okay.
He's not adjusting the height of the gun based on where he wants that bullet to hit. He's centering the target in the reticle of the scope.
Okay.
That's what he's doing. So there's nothing being changed in relation to the scope and the rifle. He isn't changing any of the settings.
And which direction is he shooting right now again?
Huh?
And which direction is he shooting now again?
He's shooting east and west. I'm not sure which direction he's shooting.
Okay.
A nice scope. That's a nice rifle and a scope.
All right, got 3 hits on the steel down there. We're going to switch directions, switch the bents over, and we're going to shoot east now.
So they were shooting west before, I imagine. Now they're about to shoot east.
Yeah. And as slow as fast as a bullet travels, when you're looking end on to its flight, you can see it move.
All right, we got 3 more hits on this steel down here. Now we're going to rack up all our gear. We're going to go check these out, measure them up, show you the results. All right, we've made it down to our target that we shot at the west. This is our west target here. And as you can see, they've all dropped in quite low. We've got 8 inches from center to the center of the group, which is a little lower than we expected, but we were dealing with some pretty stiff mirage. So we got a nice little group here. We're going to pack up this target and head down to our target that we shot to the east, and we'll compare the 2 groups and show you the difference of just switching.
Interesting.
Direction. All we did, we switched from west to east. All right, we've made it down to our target on the east target now, and as you can see, they're not quite too high. We've got about 3 inches, maybe 3.5 to the center of the group above bullseye. So if we compare this to our other target, we're 3 inches high here, we're 8 inches low there. That's 11 inches, just over a minute of difference between just shooting from the west to the east. Now, how does this affect you and your data? 1 minute with this 7 LRM that we're shooting at 1,000 yards is worth 70 feet per second if you were trying to develop drop data. And that could make huge differences in your drop data and your custom turret if you were to actually figure the data shooting east and west. So the tip today is always do your data either north and south. That will eliminate your Coriolis up and down, or know how much effect that has on it and take that into account on your ballistic data.
So, and I'd be curious to find out where he, here, let me unshare, stop sharing. How do I stop sharing?
Oh, that was me, by the way.
Oh, okay.
I'm over here.
And I'd be curious to know which direction he zeroed that scope in. That he calibrated the scope, because if it looked like he initially calibrated it shooting west to east on that shot.
And let me make sure that we clarify what's going on. If you look here, he was saying that he was shooting east here, so the Earth was dropping away, and he was shooting west there, so the Earth was coming up, so the shot was higher.
Got there closer, got there quicker, or later, one or the other. Yeah. So it doesn't prove anything. It doesn't prove it. There could be other factors, but it damn well confirms it.
So what do you say, Montreal? I'll stop sharing here.
Sure, I understand the demonstration. So now I have two things to look at. I use my eyes and I see a balloon hovering and I don't see the Earth moving under it. Two, I see a guy from the army explaining me a whole bunch of stuff.
To be fair, Montreal,
I'm going to go with my eyes on this one.
To be fair, Montreal, he already explained that point. He explained the fact that when the balloon is moving with the Earth. So in other words, what is your explanation of why it suddenly stops moving? So when the balloon is on the ground, it's moving with the Earth. What makes it suddenly just stop moving when it supposed to just stop moving when it goes in the air, so the Earth moves past it?
Well, if the balloon is moving with the Earth, that's one reference point. Then you cannot have a Coriolis effect with one reference point. How simple is that to understand?
Well, the reason why I'm not understanding is the example that I gave earlier. So you said it was because of the difference in speed. You'd have to explain why the difference in speed makes a change. I gave the example of when I was on the float, and we was able to throw things back and forth. So earlier you said that the reason why it worked in the car is because it was a closed system, because it has a roof. But that's why I gave the example, just like how the Earth, the float was just open, and that package of whatever didn't just fly back just because it was open suddenly. So it seems to me that that relates to the fact that the Earth is open. So what is your explanation of why it suddenly loses all the speed just because it lifts up in the air?
Are you talking about the balloon?
Yes.
Why it loses speed? Because it's not, the Earth isn't moving to begin with. It doesn't lose anything, just goes up. It's all in your imagination.
We can't change theories now. At first we were talking about the Earth theory and how it works or how it should work. And you were saying from that theory the Earth should move. So from that same theory I'm asking why can the balloon be moving 1,000 miles an hour with the Earth on the ground and suddenly lose all that speed and the Earth should move away from it just because it lifts up? Because like when people are in a car accident and the car crashes, they're in the same reference, but the car stops, they keep on moving. So according to you, the closed system should make them stop with the car. That doesn't happen. They still keep their momentum, even with the closed up in the car hits a wall. If they don't have a seatbelt on, they go through the windshield and hit the wall. So why does the balloon suddenly lose that speed? I'm still not catching that part. Why should it suddenly?
I posted a link in the side chat of the Hangout. It shows.
Well, let's let him answer first, though. Like, what's your answer or your clarification on that, Montreal?
You just proved my point, Daryl.
Okay.
The
How
balloon
did I
is not
prove it?
moving because the Earth is not moving. It's just going straight up. What is so difficult to understand about that?
Well, I addressed that already. You're
I'll give you
changing.
another example to make it simple for you.
Okay.
You let me.
Okay.
Do we all know about the Baumgartner high jump?
That are in the near the equator.
Are you talking about a high jump where the guy didn't use a parachute?
Yeah, he was almost in space.
No, I'm not familiar with
No?
that one. I thought you were talking about one where the guy didn't use a parachute. So okay, so go ahead and
He
do you have a
did. He did
video?
not use a parachute.
Do you have a
He was
video of
late.
it? Let's go ahead and we could play it if you could find it real fast. We could play it for everybody.
Just type. I can't do that, Daryl. If you can type in the Bob Gardner jump, I mean, I'm
Okay.
sure everybody listening here has seen it.
Okay, one moment. Let me see if I can find it. Bob Gardner jump. And I'm sorry, I forget that you're on the cell
Yeah.
phone. And
Yeah, sorry about that.
Fastest man alive.
Yeah, for sure.
Beats Usain Bolt.
Okay.
By far, Sean.
I don't think Usain Bolt's ever gone faster than terminal velocity.
Okay, so I
The
did
man has
find
a
that,
set
by
of
the way.
kahunas.
Yeah. That's pretty. It looks pretty high right there. It looks like he's almost in outer space. I'll play this for everybody so they can see it. All right, so here's the Bob Gardner jump. We're going to see what this is all about.
Item 27, lift legs into the door thread.
And I'll skip through it a bit. The whole thing is 19 minutes, but
Tree farmer.
so he's at 128,000 feet up, it's saying.
I think isn't that what is
Did you guys just notice the curve, the transition when they showed it from the outside from the inside camera? Did you guys notice that?
right? The inside camera.
At what
was,
minute? One moment here.
wasn't
Someone right
that
here?
angle.
Right there. See that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Look at the Earth how it looks. It looks. You
Curve.
see, they see it, yeah, but very slightly, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Now go to the outside camera, and it's like completely curved. Anyways, that's a side issue.
Right.
Look at that.
That's a fisheye lens. Yeah, they do that because they want to see a whole bunch of. I mean, the purpose of this jump is not to prove the globe to anybody.
No. I'm just
So, I mean-
just noticing that as an aside.
Yeah.
So what is that demonstrator would have you? Like, what is your point for pointing that out?
I'll bring that up on another time. Let's stick to the issue.
No. You brought it up. So what is your point for bringing that up? Why do you do that? I mean, why do you bring it up and then not want to explain it?
Well, from the inside it looks almost flat, and from the outside it's a big curve.
But I'm asking, why do you bring it up and not want to explain what you mean?
Because I don't want to sidestep the issue.
And don't bring it up at all. So let's make that rule going forward. If you don't want to address it, don't bring it up or mention it at all. Can we agree upon that?
Yes, Daryl. Maybe you should make a sheet of rules.
I mean, to me,
so
that's
we know how to.
that's just logical and sensible. I mean, I don't understand why you would point something out and it's like, well, I'm not going to explain this. Talk about it another time. You pointed it out. You already made it an issue. So then we're going to have a whole bunch of stuff in the stream that we just bring up and don't explain. To me, that just doesn't make sense to me. It didn't seem necessary to make that rule. So I'm saying, so you're saying looking from one side is curved and looking from the other side is flat. What is your conclusion about that or something?
Just making an observation.
Is there any point to the observation? Like, does it prove something or?
Yeah, it doesn't prove anything, but which one is it? Is the Earth curved? Is it flat? What's going on here?
Right. So looking.
Using.
Go ahead.
People are using the outside. Some round earthers are using the outside video footage and saying, "Look, the Earth is curved." But when you point to them, it's a fisheye lens. Oh no, blah 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 blah. But then when you show them from the inside, there's a difference there. That's my point.
I see. So what I'm seeing here is my understanding of the way lenses work. Even with a fisheye lens, if you have something in the center of the lens, the distortion will be minimal, if at all, in the center. So like if you have a fisheye lens and you put a straight line in the exact center of the fisheye lens, it won't curve. But if you have a fisheye lens and there's something on the edge, then the curve will be magnified the farther it is from the edge. So when I look at this, and I'm trying to find the inside one again. So when I look at this inside image, I see that this line is towards the center of the lens. So if that is a fisheye lens, that would explain why it isn't curved drastically, because it's in the center. So that would be a more accurate representation of the curve of the Earth. If you look at this one right here, is on the edge of the fisheye lens. So that's why it's a bit more. That's why it's a lot more. Um, um, it's more drastic.
Yeah.
An expansion of the curve because it's towards the edge of the fisheye lens.
The one on the inside is still a wide angle lens. It's not. I wouldn't call it a fisheye lens. It isn't below like 10 millimeters.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it is curved. You can see by the charts on the hatch, on the side, that those are curved. I mean, it's obviously
that's right. You can see it. Yeah, the farther
angle.
even in here. That's right.
Even the book on the left, yeah.
But that's in the center, so the curve is not as extreme, but it's still curved. But if you get
above center, so it's still gonna, if it's wide angle, it's gonna have some curve to it, even if it is flat. So.
But if you get like a video that has a non-fisheye lens, and is also in the center, you'll see that even with a non-fisheye lens, there is still a curve. So what I did was I took a clip from Rob Skiba. Rob Skiba actually proved this point. He sent up a balloon, a very high altitude balloon. It went like about around 100,000 feet up into the air, and he had one lens that was a fisheye lens and one lens that was a non-fisheye lens. And his idea was to prove the point that that the fisheye lens, um, it like, in other words, he was trying to prove that there is no curve with a non-fisheye lens, and that the fisheye lens is the one that's really doing it. But what we find is when we show that video without the fisheye lens, there is still a curve. So I'll go ahead and show that really fast so we can see that. So if you look at this video, the top one is the fisheye lens, and the bottom one is the non-fisheye lens that he purposely utilized to show that there's no curve. And as you can see, even with the non-fisheye lens, there's no curve. But the fisheye lens at the top, there's a more drastic curve because, if you notice, like when the curve is towards the top of the top lens, the fisheye lens, the curve is a bit more drastic. But the balloon is like bobbing back and forth. When it goes down towards the center, there's less of a curve even on the fisheye lens. But if you look straight at the bottom one, where it's a non-fisheye lens the whole way, you can see whether it's at the top, whether it's at the middle, whether it's at the bottom, there's a curve. So that addresses that point. Even without a fisheye lens, there's still a curve. Let's go back to the whatchamacallem video. Do you want to rebut that, Montreal, before we move back to the original point?
No, I was just simply pointing out that there's a big difference when, depending what lens you use, we can't really trust the photos. That's all I'm saying.
So that's why I brought up the fact that somebody sent up a regular lens and a non-fisheye lens. How do you explain the curve in this regular non-fisheye lens that's right in the center of the frame?
I don't know. I'm gonna have to do some research on that.
Okay. Well, whenever you want to do some research on that, then we can talk about that next time. But now
Sure.
that point has been addressed. So let's go ahead and go back to the original video and original point. And the reason why that's a big deal to me, by the way, is because I notice flat earth believers do that consistently. Like they bring up something that they think proves the point and only show just that side, and then they say, "What is that?" We will talk about something else. Riley was doing that several times when I was debating him. Like he started the debate by saying we're going to discuss every single point. But as we went along, he would mention things and then not want to explain it. I addressed that specifically. You said we have to prove every point, but now you just decide we're not going to prove that point. So that's why I don't, because it seems to me like a deceptive tactic to me. Like, I'm going to bring it up and this proves my point, but let's not discuss it to look at the other side. I don't think that's fair. So going forward,
No, I
if you bring
said
something
discuss
up,
it later. I said discuss it later. I didn't say not discuss it.
yeah, but then what ends up happening is we start discussing this and that, and then we never get back to it. So the rule will be, if we bring something up, let's address it then. If you want to discuss it later, bring it up when you want to discuss it. And we could just, because if we're going
Fair
to discuss
enough.
it later.
And by the way, Daryl,
Go ahead.
please stop referring to me as a flat earther. We've been through this many times. I forgive you. You don't remember.
Okay.
But I'm not a flat
A
earther.
stationary earther. Is that more
I'm a
accurate?
stationary earther.
Okay. I apologize.
Yes, sir.
I apologize. Okay, so let's
No
go through
problem.
this video here.
I didn't know that. If I can interject,
Certainly.
I was looking at the it's a field artillery manual, and table 12.4 determining the base piece grid. There's step 1, step 2. Step 3 is apply base piece displacement, and I have no idea what that means, to the aiming circle coordinates to determine the base piece grid. It has to do with aiming. And if you have a left displacement, you decrease in easting. If you have a right displacement, you increase in easting. If you have a forward displacement, you increase in northing. And
that's what that sniper was saying. Because like when they say you have a eastern, it increases in northing because the Earth is falling away, and thus the shot will hit higher. But if you
so I want to read through it more and better understand what it says. But yeah, it's a real thing, and it has to be accounted for.
Go ahead and present that manual real fast. We can take a look at it, Shawn.
Let me see. Yeah,
and I'll pause this really fast. We'll come back to it.
And I can put the link in the side. There we go.
Right. So this is the manual. Oops, better not do that. It's about to overwrite the. So we'll call them again. Oh no. That's why I figured out why this. For some reason, my browser does not open PDFs in the browser, so it only downloads them. That's why I went and loaded that document that Blue showed last time. So.
Huh. I'm still trying to figure out the cloud. I mean, I know it's easy to use, but it just, yeah. I do like the fact that our phones remember our passwords for us. I'd be lost.
You remember when we used to actually have to remember people's phone numbers?
Yeah, those days actually had to like push buttons like a
chump. Yeah. You had to actually. You actually had to have a second device for caller ID. Like there was the phone, then there was the caller ID thing.
Yeah. Well, Blue will remember this shit. If a friend of yours had a 9 or a 0 in their number, fuck them, man. You want me to turn my hand all the way around that dial? On a 9 or a 0, if you didn't do it fast enough, or your hand got tired on the trip around, you'd slip and you'd dial a 5.
All right, so check this out. We have this is the manual that Shawn was pointing to. I have it opened up in Adobe. So which part do you want us to go to?
I just I'd say page. There aren't page numbers on these things. There's.
What was the phrasing of it? Northing, it said.
Well, here the.
All right.
I hate PDF Reader. I really do. Oh, I closed down the.
Here we go. This is on page. Is on chapter 12, 16.
Yeah.
Apply base piece displacement to the aiming circle coordinate to determine the base piece grid. Left displacement, increase in easting. Right displacement, increase in easting. Far displacement, increase in northing. Behind displacement, increase in northing. But it doesn't say southing, so it seems like it's talking something different.
That could mean something completely different than what I think it is, because I'm not an artillery person. I don't know their language. So.
Well, perhaps you could look into that too, and we could. So he will look into the video thing, and you'll look into the artillery thing, and we could talk about that. So give me a moment here. I'll play that original video again, and we can see your boy skydiving, and we can talk about what that means, as far as the proof we're talking about. One moment here. Where's that video? Oh, open. I forgot I downloaded the, whatchamacallit. So here we go. Here's this guy skydiving again. I'm about to share this to everybody. Okay, that's the one I wanted to share, but I clicked the wrong one at first. Okay, here we go.
Shout out to Loken. Hi, Loken.
Hey, what's up?
Yeah, while you're getting this up, yeah, when I was a kid, if you were my friend and you had a 9 or a 0 in your number, you just didn't get called. I mean, that rotary phones were, I hated them. So glad when touch tone came around. And I'm old enough to remember when you had to rent your phone. At least you couldn't buy a phone. You had to lease it from Ma
Bell
Bell.
South. That's right. I remember that.
Yeah. Ma Bell ruled.
It's awesome. So here we go, guys. I think everybody can see this here. So we're going to look at this guy jumping from over 100,000 feet. And the dude with balls of platinum.
No kidding. Platinum.
So we're going to just go right to the jump.
Adamantium. Vibranium.
All right, here we go. So he's jumping down. I'll play the sound for the people at home.
Yeah, the technicians in Wakanda definitely made his balls.
He's falling 10, 12 seconds, 13. You can barely see him.
And he's going faster than terminal velocity would allow him. Because there's no wind resistance to create terminal velocity.
Speed 600 miles per hour.
But he got kind of warm.
Speed 650.
I know, right? Because the air resistance, the friction.
Mm-hmm.
Speed 700.
Bet when the air got thicker, he got kind of warm.
Speed 725. Speed 729.
Damn. Speed record for fastest free fall awaiting. So you can see how big of an undertaking this is. You have to have an entire control room helping this guy out.
You know, and this is, I think this sort of is a testament to us as a society that we drink so much of that vile tasting liquid that they're able to create a space program.
What liquid?
Red Bull.
Oh, haha.
God, that's horrible stuff.
Man, that's a good point. Oh, this is the Red Bull jump.
Yeah.
Oh, I know. Wow. That must be a very strong parachute. Well, actually, you're going to reach terminal velocity anyway, so I'm pretty sure every parachute can work at terminal velocity.
Pretty sure you had to slow down to be able to open the parachute.
There's the chute. There's the chute.
I'd be afraid of that thing ripping. I mean, tearing.
So 4 minutes. They probably
would down knowing I'm going too fast for this thing to work.
Man.
Wait, he wasn't wearing brown pants on the way up.
Okay. So Montreal, what does this demonstrate to you? What are you pointing out with this?
Okay. He jumped from over 100,000 feet in the air.
Mm-hmm.
He was traveling at approximately 729 miles an hour. But yet, if the Earth was spinning, he would have landed much farther away than he did, possibly in the ocean.
Okay, so what calculations did you do? Like, what's your evidence that should happen? Like, what is your evidence? What is your proof that should happen?
my calculations is the spin of the Earth, how long he was in the air, and his speed. He should have landed much farther away from where he was.
Like how much farther away? Like where should he have landed exactly?
Most probably in the ocean.
So in other words, like what calculations did you do? Like show us the process so we can follow along, so we can understand.
Well, I don't have the calculations that I did right now with me. I told you I wasn't prepared.
But you did calculations
The numbers,
to come up with this
excuse me?
conclusion.
Yes, I have them somewhere. I told you I'm not prepared.
I mean,
I calculated the spin of.
I can understand his point, and I can't explain it. So I'm not smart enough to explain the math behind all that and stuff.
Okay, so you can see that point.
There's nothing
Shawn?
to be smart about, Sean. It's just use your brain, man. You know you were in the army. You know you have a brain. That shouldn't happen.
Prepared to debate that point. So.
Okay. What will we do? So, South Stationary Earth Montreal, the non-fisheye lens camera. Shawn Hawkins, the Red Bull drop.
And also, the focal length of a lens doesn't make it a fisheye lens or not. Hasselblad in the 60s, 50s, 60s, 70s, I'm not sure, they created an 18 millimeter camera that was an extreme wide angle, a 90-degree field of view with a complete flat field, perfectly flat field. So a lens being wide does not necessarily create a fisheye effect. Not all lenses have distortion, either barrel or pin distortion.
Probably need to get a lens specialist to understand exactly how to do those lenses. But awesome.
But yeah, they showed a picture of it, and it was like, it was a room where they were standing in the middle of the room, and they could see wall to wall, and every line was perfectly straight. It was a gridded room, you know, painted with black lines in a white room in a grid, and every line was perfectly straight. It's the most amazing thing I've ever seen, even on the edges of the frame.
Now, why don't we do this?
It's such a great lens that, like, professionals use it as a copy camera.
Now, why don't we do this, guys? It seems like the conversation's starting to tone down. I'll scroll through the chats and see if anybody in the chat, or maybe Big Blue and Loken, do y'all have any questions or challenges for either Shawn or Montreal about their position? While I'm looking through the chats, and I'll see if anybody in the chats have any on this issue of the Coriolis versus the like the balloons floating versus the bullet versus the star trails, like Shawn mentioned. Do y'all have anything y'all want to input or any challenges for either of those guys?
Bring it on. I'll take every one of you.
Yeah, I did want to ask a question. I wondered if SC understands that the atmosphere of the Earth is pretty much attached to the Earth and spins along with the Earth. You do, you do understand that, right?
Why is that funny?
Why would that be funny?
Then there would be one reference frame, Mr. Big Blue.
Well, that's in fact essentially what you have.
Then how can you have the Coriolis effect, sir?
Yeah.
Well, I think you've got two concepts mixed up here. When you start talking, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Daryl.
To Montreal's point, he's right. I mean, if when the fact is, just like the bullet guy said, once the bullet leaves, it starts to get left behind a little bit. So it does go into its own frame of reference.
And there's a difference between propelled
yes and no,
and free floating objects.
Yes and no. That's right. If you're talking about your helicopter, the helicopter is flying in a body of air which is moving along with the Earth.
Yes, that would be one reference frame.
Yes, that's correct.
You have the Coriolis effect, with all due respect, Big Blue, with one reference frame.
you have a differential in speed north and south. Or you have a rotating reference frame that you're in, which includes the atmosphere, by the way. Now, when you fire,
Okay, let's say
the bullet, you've got then to account for the fact that it is rotating, but the aircraft is flying in that body of air. Period. The helicopter is simply hovering in a body of air that's not, and unless you've got wind, it is not moving.
Wind has nothing to do with that.
Wind has nothing to do with the way a helicopter flies?
No. Okay, let's forget the helicopter for a second. Take a balloon, a hot air balloon. Okay? We're at the center of the Earth now, right? The Earth is rotating 1,000 miles an hour underneath our feet, correct?
And the air, no, it's not rotating 1,000 miles an hour beneath our feet. We are rotating with it.
Okay, whichever way you want to say it. The Earth is rotating at 1,000 miles an hour at the equator, correct?
At the equator, about that. Yeah, a little more than that.
According to the round Earth religion, correct or wrong?
No, it's not a religion. I'm sorry.
It sure is, sir.
No, it is not.
Okay.
Well, one moment, guys. Let's stick with the facts, can we? Because name calling and stuff like that, that's just going to muddy the. I mean, do you want to actually get to facts or truth, Montreal?
Okay, my bad. I
don't think that helps anything, because I'm sure you know that would be offensive to him, right? So let's just talk about the facts. So please continue.
Correct. I apologize, Big Blue.
Okay, back to the balloon at the equator.
Right. Hot air balloon. So the Earth is spinning at 1,000 miles an hour. Yeah. Correct.
Okay.
At the equator. Okay. The balloon lifts off the air. Correct.
Gotcha.
Sorry, lifts off the ground.
Okay, gotcha.
Now you claim that the balloon automatically assumes the speed of the Earth, which moves together at 1,000 miles an hour, correct?
I maintain that the balloon is floating in a body of air which is moving at the same speed the Earth is, absent wind effects, yes.
Correct. Okay. If you agree on that, then that means there is only one frame of reference. I'm a high school dropout, and I could understand this, sir. You sound like you're more learned than me. So is Daryl. You guys cannot understand this? One frame of reference?
Yeah. Go ahead. What's your point?
Okay. So do you agree with this? It's one frame of reference, yes or no?
Yes, that is a single frame. That could be considered a single frame of reference.
Okay. Then if it's a single frame of reference, we cannot have a Coriolis effect with one frame of reference.
We have not moved in a direction that would cause a Coriolis effect. You've not moved north, south, east, or west. And you cannot.
Are you referring to the balloon?
I'm talking about the balloon. The balloon is stationary with respect to it, to the position of Earth below it.
Can be if the Earth is spinning at 1,000 miles an hour, which you agreed.
How could you
then
have
that cannot be, sir?
How could you have a Coriolis effect unless the balloon is forced to move east, west, north, or south? How could you possibly have a Coriolis effect? You can't.
No, you have it backwards. The balloon is not moving. The balloon is stationary.
And as long as it is, as long as you have not forced it to move in some direction other than straight up or down, you cannot have a Coriolis force. So
exactly.
It's that simple.
Exactly. So since nothing is moving, then you have no Coriolis force.
The Earth is still rotating, but the balloon is rotating with it. That is all.
Sorry, sir. You cannot have both. You cannot have both things.
You can. I've just explained it to you. You've got to have like a bullet that you are forcing to move in a direction other than straight up or down. You will have.
I'm afraid you're wrong, sir. I'm afraid you're wrong.
I'm sorry, but.
It sounds like you two are talking past each other. It seems like it seems like this is the point that it was a very small detail, but I noticed this often happens in these discussions. I noticed that Montreal said, does it immediately assume the speed of the Earth? So it sounds like you're saying, Big Blue, that it still has the same speed it had when it was on the Earth, the lateral movement. And it sounds like Montreal is saying that it has to kind of, once it leaves the surface, it has to pick up speed. Are you saying that it doesn't keep that momentum when it lifts from the Earth, Montreal?
If the Earth is spinning, right, and the balloon lifts up, let's say the Earth is spinning and the balloon initially moves with it, then it will lose momentum if there's two reference frames.
What I'm asking is, what is it that causes it to lose that speed?
Well, I don't think it's losing any speed at all. I don't think it gained any speed at all. I think the Earth is stationary. I just think it simply goes up and comes back down.
So if
there's no wind.
Okay. Like we will never be able to get to a conclusion if you don't stay in the same. So in other words, we start by talking about the globe model and the and the Earth moving 1,000 miles an hour, and you say that plainly. But then when I ask you what happens in that model for the speed to suddenly have to go away, then you switch to the stationary and say the Earth is not moving. So you're not answering the question. You're not staying with the same discussion. If you don't want to discuss the model of the Earth moving or spinning at all, then we just need to stop now. But if you're going to talk about the Earth is moving as 1,000 miles an hour, and I made the calculations, and the guy should be over there if it was working that way.
You say that. I'm saying that you guys say the Earth is moving. I'm making what you guys say. I'm not saying that. I say the Earth is not moving.
Then how are you able to calculate where the guy should be when he's falling all that time at that speed?
Because I used your numbers.
So I'm asking you to use the same numbers now and explain why does the balloon have to suddenly lose momentum, just because it lifts off the ground? Why does it have to stop moving laterally 1,000 miles an hour and the Earth moves under it? What happens in those calculations that causes that to happen?
It's very simple, Daryl. You cannot keep your momentum forever. Example, a bird is flying, picks up a squirrel that it wants to eat. It's moving in the air. Then it drops the rabbit or whatever. The rabbit's going to keep moving straight for a little while, and then it's going to lose its momentum and fall.
Okay. And now
this is elementary stuff.
And now I think you understand what the little detail was that was missing, Big Blue. He's basically saying that once the balloon lifts up from the ground, it's in its own frame of reference, and it doesn't have a motor to make it move. So now it's going 0, and the Earth just keeps moving at 1,000, but the balloon has to stop after a little while and just stop moving laterally. So that's the point that's under contention.
Hallelujah.
Right.
Hallelujah. Thank you, Daryl.
You're welcome, sir.
Only if the body of air the balloon is sitting in stops moving.
What?
Only if the body of air that the balloon is sitting in stops moving or changes its movement.
That makes no sense whatsoever.
Well, I don't know what to tell you about that.
Look, you guys have no leg to stand on. Just be men, admit it. We'll move on to the next point. You have no legs to stand on here.
I'm fine with that. Y'all want to move on?
Be a man. Be a man. Admit you're wrong and move on. That's it.
I would appreciate it if you didn't suggest that I'm not a man. But let me assure you, I am. Now,
sound like one to me.
I believe you just declared victory and pulled out after you got your ass kicked, is what I think. But if you'd like to say
I kicked all of yours asses. There's how many of you in the chat? How many of you? It's like 17-1. I kicked all your asses. You know it.
You've been talking to one guy. You've been talking to one guy at the time.
Well, let's do this if y'all don't mind. Well, let's do this if y'all don't mind. Let me go through the chat really fast, and some people made some comments or questions, and let's see if we can address those real fast, and then maybe we will change the subject. Maybe I can start a new stream or something.
Yeah,
so you guys don't concede?
He proved everyone wrong. Now let's go have an ice cream sandwich. Let's spend the
Thank you, Shawn.
Spend arguing about whether he won or not. Let's spend that time having an ice cream sandwich.
That's very nice of you, Shawn. You know, if I would have lost, you guys would have been hammering me left, right, and center.
No,
you Montreal
wrong and moved on, and that's what we tried to do.
Stop just a moment, Shawn.
We don't gloat over our wins, dude.
Shawn.
What?
But you don't admit your defeats either.
No, I'm not admitting anything. Montreal, let me ask you this. You don't agree that the atmosphere is moving with the Earth. Is that what you're saying? You're telling me right now if I go outside, I'm not at the equator, but the Earth's speed at my latitude is probably 700 miles an hour. So I should go outside right now and be able to feel a 700-mile-an-hour wind. Is that what you're saying?
No, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is the Earth is stationary. There's no movement. The only movement we see in the air is because of our atmosphere, about the winds, the weather, the cycle of carbon, all that stuff. That's what I'm saying.
And you can explain why we see. Well, never mind. We're not going to go off in a whole bunch of different directions here. Okay.
Use your brain. Use your judgment.
I am using my brain and my judgment and my education. Yes, and my experience. Yes, I'm using all of those things.
When did you ever feel the Earth move, Big Blue?
Why would I feel the Earth would move? Tell me why I would feel the Earth move. Have you been able?
I will tell you very simply. Can I?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. I won't say religion, in your idea, in your ball idea, the Earth is a ball. It's tilted on an axis. It's wobbling. Mm-hmm. That's one motion. The Earth is spinning at 1,000 miles an hour. Third motion, the Earth is moving around the sun. Fourth motion, the sun is moving, blah, blah, blah. Then fifth motion, the galaxy is moving. We're talking about 6 or 7 simultaneous motions.
Frame of reference. You're looking at 6 or 7.
And you're telling me you don't feel any of that? You guys are really, really in a deep sleep. You need to take the red pill.
You're talking like several different frames of reference.
Excuse me, Shawn.
Yeah.
Why would I feel any of that?
Yeah.
Why would you feel? Are you serious?
I am serious. You tell me why, Shawn. Hush a moment. Why would I feel any of that? I can feel acceleration. I can feel deceleration. I can feel lateral acceleration or deceleration. I can't feel something that rotates once per day.
I can't feel the other motions that I mentioned
once. I certainly can't feel something that rotates once per year. And I'll bet you I won't feel something that rotates once every, 2 million years or so? I don't know what it is. For the
24,000.
Now that's just a wobble. You can't.
You're correct.
Feel it.
Maybe you might not.
Have you ever calculated what that G-force is? I guess not.
Sir, maybe you're correct. You might not feel one motion, but we're talking about 5 motions. They're linear motions. They're all in different directions. By your own admission, you should be able to feel that.
No, what that boils down to, if you understood vector algebra, is one resultant vector. I don't care how many of them you add in there. You've got one single resultant vector from all of that.
All I can say is you're dreaming.
No, I'm not.
And anybody that believes you is really needs to take the red pill. You guys have been blue pilled. All I can suggest is use your own brain.
Do you honestly believe that like all the PhDs they lack critical thinking? Do you honestly believe that?
I honestly do, because if a man that's educated sees a balloon hovering in the air and sees it there for hours and doesn't understand that the Earth is not turning underneath, they have to go back to school. Period.
Do you know how ridiculous you sound right now?
Yeah.
I'm sure
you're basically saying that, oh no, me and my flat Earth buddies are fucking smarter than all the academics.
I'm not a flat earther.
Okay, whatever. Stationary Earth, whatever the fuck.
May as well be.
You don't believe in reality. You're a reality denier.
Yeah.
You're a reality denier. You see a balloon there in the air, just hovering there, and you come up with maths why it's there. I say, wait a minute, that doesn't make sense.
But do you understand how like delusional you sound when you're saying, no, I'm smarter than all of them?
No, I never said that. Yeah. I never said that.
No, that's what you're implying. That's what you're implying. You're implying they don't have the critical thinking that you do. But no, it's just absurd.
Loken, with all due respect, if 1,000 people, if I'm looking at an apple,
we're not talking about 1,000 people. We're talking about millions of people.
Okay, if I'm looking at an apple and 1 million people tell me it's an orange, I could give a flying fuck.
But they're not.
It's still an apple.
They're not saying that. You know, they're not saying that.
Yes, they are.
Oh.
Yes, they are. They're telling me
But you know,
that there's
that
two
apple
reference.
came from an orange tree that someone grew from orange seeds or apple seeds that came out of an orange. You know, you guys look at scientific facts and scientific evidence and you ignore it all.
I'm very scientific.
No, you're not.
I'm looking at it from a
not.
scientific perspective.
You're not.
You can't have both. You can either have one frame of reference or two frames of reference. Anything you guys say doesn't matter to me.
Mm-hmm.
That's very simple.
That's very telling.
What about this, guys? What about talking about the star trails? Let's Shawn mentioned the issue of star trails. So let me show you all this image here, and maybe this will be a point of discussion. Give me a moment here. So this is an image that I got from the Twitter channel of FIOP2UUOA84V, and basically what this guy did was he took images from the north equator and the south, and he's showing the star trails along the entire Earth. So to address the proof of movement that Shawn brought up, because it seems like we've got the Coriolis effect drilled down. People can make their conclusions about what they heard. Why don't we look at this? So to challenge Shawn's point, he's saying it's circular, but I see there's a side one in the middle. And to challenge Montreal's position, how do you explain the swirls at the bottom and the swirls at the top and the swirl in the middle matching a moving globe if we're not moving? What do y'all two have to say about this image as far as both y'all's positions? And who wants to go first explaining their position?
Well, the center image is the center of the rotational axis. It's like if you stuck your head between two car tires or wagon tires and you look left, north, or right, south, you're going to see two opposite spins. But if you look at, if it was a cylinder connecting the two wheels, it would be straight when you're in dead center.
Okay.
And this completely agrees with what we'd expect to see on a rotating circular Earth or spherical Earth.
So basically the left will be the left wheel, the right will be the left wheel, and the center will be the little fulcrum in the middle that's just rolling straight because you're right there in the center.
Exactly.
How do you explain?
And in opposite directions too. On these images, the one on the left is going clockwise, and the one on the right is going anti-clockwise.
What do you have to say about this as far as the stationary? Because this is something that we observe Montreal, as far as like when you're in the northern hemisphere, you see the spin to the counterclockwise, and then when you're in the southern hemisphere, you see the spin clockwise when you're looking at the pole, and like in the equator, you see the stars sort of rolling along, like you don't see a circle. You see it going arching across the sky. You know, how do you explain this if the Earth is not moving on Montreal?
Very simple. Einstein said everything is relative, so we don't know what's spinning. Something is spinning. Could be the Earth, could be the stars. We don't know.
So you think it could be the Earth that's moving?
I'm going according to your stuff now.
No.
I explained you my position.
No, in other words, this is what we see. Like what I'm showing you right now is what we see. When you go to the North Pole, you see the spin at the Arctic. When you go to the South Pole, you see the spin at Antarctica. When you're in the middle between the equator and the South Pole, you see on the left right there the arch with at the horizon the South Star. In the middle, you see the arch going across the sky. So I didn't give a theory or an explanation. I said this is what we see. Then I asked Shawn, how do you explain? Because he said you see circular from the side. I challenged his position and say, Shawn, in the middle when we at the equator, we don't see circular. We see a little arch. How do you explain that? He explained it. So now I'm asking you for your position. This is what we see. I didn't give any theory. This is what we see. So if the Earth is not moving and is not a sphere that's spinning, how do you explain these star trails with a stationary Earth?
Very simple. The stars are moving.
Now, notice a moment ago you said the Earth could be moving or the star could be moving. What did you mean by that?
I was talking your language with priest Einstein and
Okay, understand
relativity.
now. But from your
According to
experience and understanding, in fact, it's really the stars moving. Okay, so how do the stars move to make this pattern? Like, can you describe it for me so I can draw it in my paint, and if you can have an understanding of this layout?
I'm not an astronomer. I can't explain that to you.
So how do
I'll
you
have
know
to
that?
do more research on that and get back to you on that.
Every astronomer can explain it to you, though, and every astronomer agrees with us. If you weren't,
So what? You're appealing to authority now, Shawn. Show me some potatoes.
I know what astronomers believe. There's books written about it.
Astronomy is a pseudoscience.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is. They look very simple. They
in his little chart.
It's an observation.
They look and they declare.
It's an observation.
Look and declare.
Not every science has to use the scientific method. Not every scientific discovery has.
Oh no. Let me go back in. I'll remember to unmute myself this time. Okay, I remember to unmute myself.
No, it's not. It's pseudoscience and there's science. Like there's science who built my computer and the lights and our cars. That's science, no denying it. Somebody seeing a light in the sky and telling me I'm going to do the wind patterns of Saturn, that's a...
But that's exactly what I'm trying to understand, Montreal. Like, my understanding is your position is that you're going by science, but what science did you do to establish that it's the stars that's moving and making this pattern?
That's the science of my brain.
Well,
how do you define science then? Like when you say, because you say that they're not doing science and you are, is my understanding. So when you say the science of your brain, like what exactly do you mean? Like how is that science?
I didn't say I was doing science. I say I'm using my common sense.
So what does that mean? Like what is that process where you establish that it's the stars that's moving and the Earth is not moving and the Earth is stationary?
Like I said, I use my brain. I'm very sensitive to movement. If I go on a boat, I'm really gonna get sick. So if we're supposed to have like 7, 8 different movements, I don't feel nothing. So my logic tells me I'm not moving right now.
Okay. So to make sure I'm understanding
when
properly.
I look up and I see.
Go ahead.
So since my logic tells me I'm not moving, I look up and I see something moving. From that, I deduce something is moving. I could be wrong.
Okay. Now, when you say you could be wrong, if you're wrong, what would be an alternative explanation?
Notice how I say I could be wrong, and you guys always claim that you know everything. Science this, science that.
Okay, one moment. What did I claim just now?
I'm talking in general.
Well, I'm talking
all around.
Why are you talking in general? No. Me and you are having a conversation. You said something. I asked you about it, and then you were talking about other people claiming stuff. I do not understand. Why can't you simply answer?
You see how mad it gets you when I group you into all round earthers? You see how mad that gets you?
Why? If you're not going to have a conversation, man, just let me know and we can stop. What's frustrating is you're contradicting what thousands of years of science say. You said that you understand that from your brain and so on and so forth, and you said you could be wrong. I asked you a simple question. What do you think the alternative is if you're wrong? And you're talking about what general people say or something. That's a waste of time to me. If you don't want to discuss anymore, let me know, and I could let you go, and we could just talk about something else.
Discuss.
Okay, so
stop getting triggered, Daryl.
If you make a statement like that again, I'm just going to boot you. I mean, so if you want to answer the question, go. Let's go.
Ask me the question.
So you said you could be wrong about that. What will be the alternate solution if you're wrong?
Who knows? I don't know.
He knows what the alternative is.
Right. Well, let me see what the comment has to say. What the comment section has to say about this little discussion here.
Have you seen a Foucault pendulum before, Montreal? And if so, do you have any explanation for why that does what it does?
The Foucault pendulum. Are you serious? The thing that's attached to the Earth that they claim is separate from the Earth? You can do better than that, Big Blue.
Who's Mojo?
Well, you could answer the question to it, but if you can't, that's fine.
It's a joke. The Foucault pendulum is a joke.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, so that's a different topic. Y'all want to talk about the pendulum? You familiar with that pendulum, Big Blue?
Yeah.
Okay. So, would you explain to everybody what that is?
We've got a total of about 130 of them that you can go and see at various places here in the U.S. alone, and not. I don't know how many there are around the world. They don't work well at all on the equator. Don't go to the equator looking for a Foucault pendulum. Smart people don't put them there because they will not work. But a Foucault pendulum, if you mount it at one of the poles, and they've done that actually at the South Pole because there's a thing called Antarctica. You've got a solid landmass under it. And you let that pendulum swing, it will rotate through 360 degrees every 24 hours, and it will do it forever. It maintains its direction like any pendulum does. The Earth rotates underneath it. As you move off of the pole to a different latitude, you'll get different rates of rotation, but you will still see the pendulum rotate. Now, it may take 36 hours for it to make a full revolution, but that's the way the thing works, and it shows you that the Earth is rotating underneath that pendulum.
Okay. Now, I heard Montreal say that's nonsense or what have you. I don't remember your exact word. What do you have to say about that pendulum observation or experiment?
It's the biggest joke I've ever heard of. It's attached to the ground. You can't have two reference points with something attached to the ground. What a joke.
It's attached to usually they're fairly long. The longer you make it, the easier it is to maintain the swing of the thing. Typically, those cables that they are attached to, it's just a cable, is maybe 100 feet long. Okay. And it's hanging. It's hanging just like a plumb bob. So it's being held up. Yes, it has to be held up by something. It's not rigidly attached to the Earth. That's the point.
And they are, if I can add something, they are kept in motion now by electromagnetic forces. There's a ring around the cable, an electromagnetic ring around the cable. There's a little piece of metal attached to the cable, and there's an optical sensor, two optical sensors that are crossed where it senses where it is in its travel. And what it does is just before it gets to dead center, bottom dead center, it gives it a little pulse and it keeps it moving. It's a little nudge, and it gives that pulse in all directions. It isn't a directional pulse. So it just basically pulls that thing from where it is to the center, and it does it for an instant, and then it lets it go. So no matter where it is, it's always pulling it towards the center of its movement, towards bottom dead center. So it doesn't change its direction at all. It just keeps it swinging. Gives it a little nudge.
That's only there, Shawn, because that just keeps the museum curator from having to go up and restart the damn pendulum once a day.
Right.
They're a pain in the ass to get started, but it does not require that to operate.
Right. Exactly. Yes. Yeah.
So why do you think it disproves the experiment because it's connected to the Earth in some way, Montreal?
Before I answer that, I'd like to say shout out to Meese and Red Pill Philosophy. Red Pill, I'm a big fan of yours.
Oh, is Bitch Boy in the chat there? Yeah, there he is. Hey, coward. Hey, you bunny-eared dude. Red Pill looks good in bunny ears. That little handlebars kind of accentuate it.
And what's the name of this pendulum again, Big Blue?
It's called a Foucault pendulum.
How do you spell that?
I always get it wrong. Is it F-A-U or F-O-U-C-A-U-L-T?
Awesome.
You haven't heard of that before, Daryl?
Yeah, I've heard of it. I've heard of it in passing, but I never really looked into it and really understood the name of it, what the name of it was. But what is your explanation of what is your response to his explanation that it swings freely? Like, why do you think that because it's connected to the earth in some way? My understanding is it sounds like you're saying because it's connected to the earth in some way, that should somehow force it to turn with the earth no matter what, or what?
Well, of course, you stated it perfectly for me, Daryl. Thank you.
Okay, so in other words, if it's allowed to spin, why should that still somehow make it, like it was put on some kind of gimbal or what have you, where it's allowed to spin freely, just like how you can take you know, like your wheels and your tire, your wheels on your car, I meant to say, like it's connected to your car, but it's still allowed to spin freely. So it's not like your car flips over and over and over on end every time the wheel spins. Even though the wheel is connected to the car, it's made in such a way where the wheel can spin freely. So why can't you have a pendulum that's connected but still allowed to spin freely, just like your wheel on your car?
No, it makes absolutely no sense what you're saying. The wheels are attached to the car. If the car flips over, the wheels are going to flip over. They're not independent. We're talking about independent here, which like a balloon. A balloon is independent.
Right. So this is what I'm saying. So like you have a pendulum, and it is attached to something on the ground, but the pendulum itself is set up in such a way where the part where it's swinging at can clearly spin, or even just the fact that the wire is flexible enough where it can spin in every direction. So it's not like it's
Daryl, save your breath.
Okay.
Sorry to interrupt you. Any which way, any mechanism you come up with, you cannot go away from the fact that it's still attached to the earth somehow.
Okay.
There's no way around that.
And just to be sure I'm explaining it well, did anybody else understand what I said about the tire, like how a tire is attached to a car, and when the tire spins, the car doesn't flip every time the tire spins, even though it's attached, it can spin on its own? Did that make sense to anybody else?
Makes sense to me.
Right, just making sure. But cool, I'll waste my breath on that. Did anybody want to address him any further on that?
Can you see my screen?
Oh yes, let's go ahead and make that a bit bigger. So this is something that Big Blue is sharing. I didn't even realize what your channel name was, Big Blue. Would you say your channel name for us one time?
Blue Marble Science.
Blue Marble Science. So that's Blue Marble Science presenting right there. Make sure you check them out as well. So we have SC Montreal, stationary at Montreal. We have Shawn Hawkins. We have TIG Loken 16. All on the hangout today. Thank y'all for joining.
Yeah.
So go ahead, Big Blue. What you want to say?
Let's see. Let's take it back a little bit so I can watch it some more. That's one up in Chicago at the Museum of Science and Industry, I think. And again, it's a very heavy weight. I'm not sure what that one weighs, but typically they'll weigh a few hundred pounds.
Oh.
It's hanging off a wire. And yes, the wire is attached to a structure which is attached to the earth. Now, please tell me, sir, how that wire can cause that pendulum. How can you cause that pendulum to move out of that straight line it's in? What force can you put on that wire that would cause that? What force can the earth put on it?
What force the earth can put on it?
You're claiming.
All I know is it's a man.
Huh?
It's a man-made device. You have to start it yourself. You have to nudge it to start working.
How do you start one? Do you know?
I don't know. I think they move it with their hand. Don't they just initially start it themselves, or a machine? I don't know what gets it going, but it doesn't start moving on its own.
They usually tie it in its swing. They tie it back with a cord and they burn the cord. Usually, in the old days, they did.
That's how they
do
it.
So they started the initial movement, correct?
Yeah.
Right. You need to put.
So it's a man-made thing. It's meaningless.
It's a pendulum.
A pendulum that you do not put energy into is a plumb bob.
Your best proof you're standing on thin ice.
No, I think the ice is pretty damn thick, buddy. Have you ever seen a gyro compass? Are you familiar with those? I can pull one of them up and show it to you. They've been using them for well over 100 years. The Sperry Company is one of the more famous makers of those things. That's what they used to use on ships all the time. Today they can use ring lasers or fiber optic gyros, but that type gyro will only work because the Earth rotates. There's no other way it can align itself with the pole. It's called a gyro compass. It's called a gyro compass. You should look those up. There are literally hundreds of thousands.
Sir,
of them.
you can say anything you want. You can say anything you want. You cannot prove what you're saying. It makes no sense. All I have to do is look at a balloon stationary in the air. That kills everything you guys just said.
Well, it
kills it all.
You can deny all you like, and that's all you're doing. You're just denying it. That's fine.
I'm not denying it.
That's fine.
There's either one reference frame or there's two reference frames. Anything else you say is absolutely blah, 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 pseudoscience.
Oh. So you take one small cherry-picked thing and ignore everything else the science says about it. That's a pretty small-minded view of the world, dude. That's
no,
bad.
it's not. It's not a cherry-picking thing, Sean.
Bad.
It's something that you cannot deny. I'll give you other examples too. A plane flying east to west. There's many things.
What about a plane flying east to west? Because I'm a pilot, so you tell me about a plane flying east to west.
Okay, if the Earth is spinning, and we have two reference frames, the travel time should be reduced in one way and greatly increased the other way.
Why? If the body of air it's flying in is moving at the same speed the Earth is, the airplane only knows the air is flying in. It doesn't know shit about the speed of the Earth. It knows how fast the air is flying. It knows how fast it's moving relative to the air it's flying in, period. Can you prove that
makes
wrong?
No sense. How about landing?
Can you prove that wrong? No. One thing at a time. Can you prove I'm wrong with what I just said? The airplane only knows its speed relative to the mass of air it's flying in. Can you prove that wrong?
I'll have to think on that one. It knows its speed. Okay, but if the mass is not spinning, if the mass is stationary, you're going to tell me the airplane doesn't know the difference if a mass is spinning 1,000 miles an hour or not? Is that what you're claiming?
No, I'm telling you, it knows its speed is relative to the mass of air it is flying in.
Right, and if that mass of air is not moving, or if that mass of air is moving at 1,000 miles an hour,
it doesn't
and
matter
it's flying against that.
It doesn't matter if that mass of air is moving 1 billion miles an hour. The airplane only knows how fast it's moving relative to that air mass.
Dude, there's no issue with discussing anything further with you. I'm sorry.
Well,
if you can't see that.
I'm sorry if I'm confronting you with a lot of facts, but these are facts. Mm-hmm. The airplane flies at a speed relative to the air it's in. That's why we have a thing called an airspeed indicator in there. It doesn't say ground speed. It says airspeed.
So if you're flying head on 1,000 miles an hour head speed, you're telling me
at 1,000
that the plane
miles
doesn't realize that?
Yeah, that's absolutely what I'm saying. If you're flying at 1,000 miles an hour,
you're your own argument. If a plane is flying towards something at 1,000 miles an hour and it could only travel at 500, how is that plane moving?
If the plane is flying in an air mass that is moving at 0, and it is registering a speed of 500 nautical miles an hour, it is flying at 500 nautical miles an hour relative to that air. If the air is stationary over the Earth, it is flying at 500 nautical miles an hour relative to the ground underneath it.
Correct. But if it's traveling to, let me finish. If it's traveling towards the air mass that you claim is traveling at 1,000 miles an hour, how is it moving at all if it can only go 500?
It was moving at 1,000 miles an hour when it was. It is relative to the air mass it's in. I'm sorry, if you
you're
can't
making no
this out.
sense, dude. A 5-year-old child could, if you tell this to a 5-year-old child, they'll laugh at you, Big Blue.
Hey, stop insulting me. No, that'll be enough of that.
Well, we about to end it, and he already made it clear that you could save your breath because doesn't matter what you say. So It sounds like a good time to wrap up with some closing comments. And so I said I want to keep it about 2.5 hours, and we're about to hit the 2.5 hour mark. So why don't we go ahead and uh, uh, what's your closing comments, Stationary Montreal?
My closing comments is this. Thank you all very much for having this debate with me. I believe I won the debate hands down. And that's just about it. You have no proof. You have nothing to say on the matter except this and that. And I believe I schooled all of yous on the matter of the spinning earth. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. What do you have to say, Shawn?
Yeah, you can think he won the debate all he wants, but demonstrable scientific evidence proves him wrong. So good luck with that, dude.
What about you, Big Blue?
I got to come off mute. I wish Montreal would open his eyes and pay attention, listen to people that know what they're talking about, because he certainly does not. And that's all I've got to say.
What about you, Loken?
All I can say is basically the same thing. Just it's pretty much delusional thinking if you think that all the people in academia are just not critical thinkers and you're above them in every way. You and a few thousand other conspiracy theorists that question the Earth. Yeah, that's it.
Awesome. Now I noticed that Stationary Montreal said he will look into the non-fisheye lens balloon thing, and Shawn said he will look into the Red Bull drop thing. Do y'all want to actually talk about that again next week, or y'all are done with each other?
I'm open to talking with anybody. I'm neither on team blue or team red. I just want to find the truth. That's it.
What do you say, Shawn?
Sure. Bring it any time, man.
Okay, so next Saturday, same time, 11:30 a.m. Central Time, we'll talk
Sure.
about visual proof, and I don't know if it's proper for you to talk about that with him, because that's a side point he brought up, and I brought up the non-fisheye lens thing. So, but you know, I believe he still had to make calculations about the drop. So actually, y'all could just talk about that, about the Coriolis, the Red Bull drop. Shawn had to look into that. He could bring his calculations. You'll be able to have your calculations next week, SC Montreal, about where the powder should have
Sure.
ended up. Okay, so y'all can just talk about that, and you won't have to
Sounds
talk about
good.
my point.
Sounds good.
So next week we'll talk about the Red Bull drop, whether the parachutist should have ended up according to the Coriolis effect compared to where he really did. Do you think you'll be prepared to talk about that, Shawn?
Yep. I can talk about anything he wants to.
Sounds good. So now everybody will have a week. We know exactly when it's going to be, Saturday or next week, 11:30 a.m. Central Time, which is 2.5 hours earlier than now. We'll talk about the Red Bull drop, the Coriolis effect, whether he fell where he should have been, or whether he should have fallen somewhere else according to the globe model, and what the actual calculations are to support that. And I'll point out to everybody that tomorrow I'll be on at 2 p.m. Central Time. I'll be talking about altered states and the things that you experience on the way to an out-of-body experience. So like the alpha state, the theta state, the delta state, what things you experience and how it may feel going out of body. And I plan on opening up another class on teaching people how to get out of body again, like about what I don't know, 3 years ago now. I think it's been 3 or 4 years. I had a class where I taught like about 20 people the out-of-body experience, and not everybody practiced it enough to learn, but about 5 people had some experiences, 2 people had out-of-body experiences. So I'll do that again, so y'all can go to the DarrellEBeverJr.com website and sign up there if you want. First, it starts with a basic skills class, and then we go into the out-of-body thing. So the details is on the website. And just to look at, go ahead.
Daryl, yeah, I just want to let Red Pill Philosophy know out there that anytime he wants to come in here and have a one-on-one with me, bring it. One-on-one, me, you, Daryl not stepping in, right? Daryl moderating.
Sounds
bring
good.
it, boy.
And y'all
That's
know
all I
I'm
got.
about the evidence, so just make sure you bring your evidence. And I don't have anything set for Wednesday of next week. Y'all want to do Wednesday of next week?
And he needs to be able to prove that the burden of proof and the rules regarding that don't apply.
He can't prove shit.
No, he can't.
Fucking
No, he
garbage.
can't. So yeah, anytime he wants.
Hey, Red.
He needs to bring his evidence, his proofs. None of this. Well, it's kind of funny that things are like really coincidental. None of that, dude. You need to bring your evidence. You need to bring verifiable, demonstrable, observable fact. That's nothing less will do in this forum. So if you want to try and come at me, bring it.
Sounds good. So I don't have anything planned for Wednesday next week. That'll be at 8:30 p.m. Central Time. So if y'all want to do it then, I'll be happy to moderate then. And thanks everybody for joining, guys. And I'm glad everybody enjoys. I see some comments of some good enjoyment. So I'm about to go take a break, get something to eat. I'll probably be back later to see if somebody's streaming or something like that. But I'll definitely be back tomorrow, 2 p.m. Central Time. If anybody's interested in astral projection to see what things you might experience in deep altered states, and go to the website if you want to sign up for the courses. So all right, y'all have a nice one.
Peace all.
Later.